He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands.
Welcome back to another episode of Truth. I am Javi, your host for tonight's this evening's event. So this came out about a month ago. For those of you that don't know, just over a month ago. Anthony Weiner. Anthony Weiner was a senator, I believe he's from New York, who got caught sexting naked pictures to an underage kid. As a senator. His wife, by the way, worked for the Clinton campaign, so has nothing to do with, Epstein or shit like that. But this is from Valuetainment's PBD podcast. About a 2-hour-long podcast, so hope you're in for a long run, because I am. Or then again, if it gets boring, I'm just going to cut it off. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Anthony Weiner, the Chomo.
30 seconds.
Did you ever think you would make it? I feel I'm so close, I could taste sweet victory. I know this life meant for me. Yeah, why would you bet on Goliath when we got Bet David? Valuetainment, giving values contagious. This world of entrepreneurs, we can't no value to haters. I be one, homie, look what I become. I'm the one.
You can identify as anything nowadays.
You're saying I shouldn't use any dirty words? Or
You can
like
use
no, you
whatever
say
words
you
you
want.
want. We're live. Okay, guys,
Got
let's.
Got
if you're here, Anthony, we're live, buddy. So if you guys were here the last 5 minutes, you would have really enjoyed what just happened here last 5 minutes. So this is almost called a blind date because, Anthony, it's fair to say you know nothing about our podcast.
Not true. On the plane, I listened to a couple of the last few.
What did you listen to?
Oh, he listened to
I
one.
listened to a little bit of Jeffrey Toobin, and I had trouble plowing through the 11-minute question that you started with, so I didn't hang around for what he had to say. Yeah. I listened to last week some guy named Rubin.
Dave Rubin.
Dave Rubin.
It was a
hockey
couple
player.
days.
Yeah.
He's a hockey player.
Very, very good hockey player. From,
Actually, great basketball player.
Where?
From L.A. He played hockey in a small little league with his friends.
Okay,
but
when
he
you
was
say
good,
someone's a hockey player, you don't say he played roller hockey.
Well, second cousin to
Shut up,
Messi.
Weiner. You look like you haven't played anything
some little bit with
second cousin to Messi.
Yeah.
Did he do rubber cannon? Well, okay. Well, listen to him. That was interesting. Listen to this off the wall take on RFK, which I thought was hilarious. But I listened to a few. You guys do a great job here. It's a great. I mean, I'm thrilled to be here because I'm new. I'm kind of relatively new to media, the business, and so I wanted to see what this model was all about.
So for the audience who doesn't know who Anthony Weiner is, I want to kind of give an intro because you got a show going on right now called The Middle with Anthony Weiner, and there was a time that everybody and anybody saw you.
But give me a little bit more. Give it a little more oxygen. I'm on 77 WABC radio in New York, 50,000 watt clear channel. Powerful AM radio, but a very different model than this.
Give it to us again. You're in 77 markets.
No, it's 770. So this is AM terrestrial radio, which might be mysterious to some of your audience. Like it's still old school terrestrial radio.
AM radio.
It is the iconic WABC is the iconic radio station. Been around for about 100 years. It's gone through a lot of different things. And recently, a guy named John Catsimatidis. You know that name at all?
No.
He started out in supermarkets in New York. Then went into oil, and now he's a billionaire. And so he bought the station off the scrap heap. But it's terrestrial radio. It's old-fashioned, over the air, and people stream it and everything else. But the podcast part of it is an offshoot. We have it, but it's really old-fashioned with calls and that kind of thing. So we do that. And then also we have like some podcast stuff.
I got to tell you, man, I remember every other second we turn on the TV was a story about you. Every day you were on it was mathematically impossible
Long
to
time
avoid
ago,
you.
though, brother.
Long time ago, but the audience who doesn't know needs to kind of know. So let me kind of properly introduce you. Anthony David Weiner is an American former politician who served as the U.S. representative for New York's 9th congressional district from 1999 to his resignation in 2011. A member of the Democratic Party, consistently carried the district with at least 60% of the vote. Weiner resigned from Congress June of 2011 after it was revealed he sent sexually suggestive photos of himself to different women. A two-time candidate for mayor of New York City, Weiner finished second in Democratic primary in 2005. A lot of people wanted you to actually become the mayor, and it was super close. Ran again in 2013, placed fifth in Democratic primary. In 2017, you pleaded guilty for transferring obscene material to a minor and was sentenced to 21 months in prison. He was also required to permanently register as a sex offender. Weiner began serving his federal prison sentence the same year and was released in 2019. And now you have a radio show with The Middle with Anthony Weiner. And it's available on iTunes. You can follow him on Twitter,
21 months.
which is what? Rep Weiner, if I'm saying it correctly. And you also got a YouTube channel called Ask Anthony Weiner. We can put all that stuff below.
That's kind of dated, that stuff.
So I got to tell you, I watched your documentary last night at midnight.
I've never seen it. What do you think of it?
A few things. You're very weird. I mean, that's very obvious. You're a very weird, interesting guy. But I'm going to tell you one thing about.
Kind adjective. We're just getting to know each other. You're already calling me weird. We barely know each
other. I think the opportunity to get to know each other was lost 10 minutes ago. But the idea when I was watching the documentary, I do want to give you a compliment. Here's what the compliment is. I can't believe how relentless you are as a campaigner. I remember reading a book called 48 Laws of Power. And when Lyndon Johnson was campaigning, the stories about what he did, how relentless he was, morning, night, driving, walking, knocking on the doors, love or hate LBJ. A lot of people, can't stand the guy for many different reasons who were JFK guys. But they busted their ass. So if you're asking me about how I really felt about you, from the non-opinion side, you're a badass campaigner. There's no question about that. You worked your ass off. You went and shook hands. By the way, something a lot of people are not doing today. Some people on the Republican side are not doing today.
I don't know if that's right, though. I think that the thing that many Americans don't realize about the political system is that if you're going to get ahead, look, some guys have a ton of money.
Right.
Basically can just buy advertising. But most elections are not waged on TV or radio when they start. Like most congressional races, you've got to go out there and hustle. You got to knock on doors. And if you want to, the great thing about our democracy is the great equalizer is the ability. Everyone has 700,000 members of people in their district. But if you're running for a city council or mayor or a state senate race, you can get up in the morning and just hustle more than the other guy. And just like every other business in life, I would argue that gives you, it's not, equalizer is an exaggeration because obviously you have a bunch of money, or if you have a famous name, but that kind of thing that might've been seen. And I didn't see the documentary, but the portrayal that a lot of Americans.
You didn't see your own documentary? You didn't see it?
What do you mean my own? It's about me. I live that. You
didn't watch it? You haven't seen the documentary?
No, I've never
really?
seen it.
What was the reason you didn't want to watch it?
Yeah.
A couple of reasons. One is that I wanted to have the ability to, in moments like this, to say I hadn't seen it.
Okay.
Serious.
Yeah. Marketing reasons.
Cool story, bro.
I guess that's one way. Like I had no real interest in reliving something that I had lived so intimately and that still had a lot of wounds to it. And then there are processy things that I don't know if you care about. The guy who made it was a former staffer of mine.
Congratulations.
And he put my wife in it without her consent.
Oh.
And he did it because he knew that her boss was running for president. She wasn't going to sue him. And so I thought it was a really dishonorable thing to do. And so I wouldn't.
I don't know how you pulled that girl anyway. She was.
So, but getting back to the point, Patrick.
Not Clinton.
I think that one of the things that a good documentary shows is something that people don't see at first blush. And if it portrayed the idea that a good politician or any politician can level the point. When I ran for city council in New York City, I didn't have any country club connections to go to. I didn't have a bunch of money. A middle-class kid. My mom was a school teacher. But I got up every morning at 5:30. And I stood at the subways until 9, and then I went to the supermarkets and walked the aisles, and then I knocked on doors in the high rises, and I was able to win by a couple hundred votes, and that was the path that I took. But I think a lot of politicians, the politicians that people know from their own neighborhoods, probably started out that way.
So where's the disagreement?
Or a
Is it I
bartender at Boston
disagree,
University.
I was saying you busted your ass.
No,
you
I'm
were-
saying it's that unusual that I'm just saying
I think it's very unusual. I think a lot of guys think money is enough. We saw that in a lot of different places, even today. RFK, I don't know how you feel about RFK. You know, if you would have said 6 months ago, RFK is going to get this much attention, or Vivek is going to get this much attention. These guys are outworking pretty much every one of their competitors, the way they're campaigning. And I'll just a direct question to you. What do you think about what RFK's been doing?
He's been getting a lot of attention on podcasts from a lot of middle-aged white guys who are fascinated with him. He's getting pumped up by Republicans who see him as a troublemaker, and he's getting in more and more trouble. The higher, what do they say? The higher the monkey climbs, the more
How's
you
he
can see
getting
his
in
ass.
trouble? I
Every
haven't
time he
seen
turns
anything
around,
that's
he's getting
gotten him
in
in trouble
deeper and
except
deeper.
for the
And
abortion comment, which was
whatever mission that he had is
apparently
ending
misunderstood by both
in
sides.
failure.
So would you
seems to me.
say Silicon Valley is Republican or Democrat? Most of Silicon Valley money?
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know what his money situation is, and it almost doesn't matter. I mean, look, I did a podcast about him and Christie, two people who were apparently running to help the other party that they claim to be trying to run and help.
Yeah.
So, but it's irrelevant. Every campaign season, we have the same thing, and it's particularly acute now that we are kind of bored with who we have, and so the media loves to pump oxygen into people who probably don't deserve it. And Kennedy, it's
Like
just, I mean, look, it's Kennedy, the name Kennedy.
You don't like him? You don't like?
I don't know him. I never met him personally. I mean, I think he's selling books. Pretty clear to me. That's all he's doing.
You think he's selling books? Okay.
I mean,
Well,
let
if you
me-
use
let me-
something
let me
like
do
the
that.
higher monkey
advertising
climbs,
for your
the more you see his
fucking show.
ass, I'm getting the vibe you're not a fan. Is that
well,
accurate?
I wouldn't look, the guy, he's a conspiracy charlatan. I do a show where I try to take people
Well, I'd rather be a
steps back,
conspiracy
and I find that Venn
charlatan than a
diagram where
fucking
people who are interested in both sides of
pedophile
the
and a
aisle,
sex
but
offender
they want to have a
registry.
conversation based on substance and based on facts. He's not doing that. He's a conspiracy theorist. I don't hold them in high
I think
regard.
he's been very substantive with a lot of the things he's saying about guns, drugs. A lot of the crypto community is an advocate of him. Everything
Which is ironic for a guy who claims to be an eco-war environmentalist. He's changed his tune on that. Look, he's doing one common thread you can find. Whatever's making him money, whatever's getting him attention is what he's doing. So he was an environmentalist. Now cryptocurrency is where he's deriving some of his money. So suddenly he's not so concerned about the environment. It's clear to me that this attention grab around anti-vaxxing is a money grab. You can go there. They're featuring now on Amazon, especially for the election, a new box set of all of his books or whatever it is. It's a money grab. When I look at why candidates are running, there's usually a couple of things. One, they're running because they really think they're going to win. Another group of people are running because they're running for something else. Like, I think the candidates in South Carolina are probably running for vice president. Then there are candidates who are running for the next time. It seems like DeSantis is probably doing that. And then there are people who just want to get their name out there for some vague money-making or prestige or career sense. And that's what I believe RFK is.
So let me read this article to you. So Silicon Valley money men
He's
are
Kennedy,
buzzing about RFK. This is a Wall Street Journal story. Prominent figures in Silicon Valley, such as Jack Dorsey, Shamat, David Sachs, are expressing support for RFK's presidential campaign, drawn to his willingness to challenge the status quo. Dorsey recently voiced his backing.
Which is funny because I believe
the more people
he was in charge of Twitter when they were banning RFK's Twitter account. So now he supports him.
From RFK, the more they agree with our view that he should be part of the debate going forward. Kennedy's engagement with the tech community, including appearances on podcasts and discussions on platforms like Twitter Spaces, has resonated with some tech leaders who values anti-establishment stance. Shamat expressed, "I've always been anti-establishment. The idea of tearing down all these institutions of power gives me glee." So to get the attentions of guys in Silicon Valley that don't necessarily consider themselves.
Why do I care about those guys?
Taco Cat.
Maybe you should.
I didn't say I should. I didn't ask if I should. I said, why should I care? That's the question.
Why should they care about what you say, though?
Yeah.
Fair enough. I'm not asking. I'm not saying that they should.
But this is a podcast.
But if you're trying to get people onto your show,
to say when you
I know, but I'm saying
no, because no, hang on. I said you said RFK is getting a lot of Republican money. He's not. He's getting Democratic.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, you said he's getting a lot of Republican money that are interested in him.
People who are propping him up as a troublemaker. Yeah. That's
Yeah, and
certainly
you
the
said
case.
Republicans specifically, but many
Yeah,
of
well,
these
he's getting
guys
his
are
Republican
Democrats.
support. That's where his growth of support.
Yeah.
He said 4% among Democrats. That's why your theory last week about he's going to be a third party, like you can just invent a party out of whole cloth, and that he's going to be a troublemaker
There's
for
already a third
Democrats
party
is the
out
best
there,
thing could
and
possibly
fourth.
So
happen
you
in a
do
third
follow
party.
the podcast.
I told
got
you when I
okay,
when
so that's good.
I
That's
said
good
I
to
listened
hear.
to the Rubin interview on the plane
got
last
you.
night.
Okay, so who do you
Gotcha.
like, Anthony? Who do you like? Which of these guys do you like?
I got to tell you,
Are you like a diehard Biden guy?
I'm not
Are
I think we have something that I call, and this is a trademark, so don't steal it. I call it the backup quarterback syndrome in politics. That we always think the guy who's on the sideline is going to be the better candidate, the better player. And so this time of the cycle, it's who else is out there. It doesn't matter who else is out there. It's going to be Biden and Trump. So, and that choice is crystal clear for me. So who do I want? Who do I think would be better? I don't know. The guy who's in the job is doing a pretty good job at the job. He's wildly unpopular, but then again, so is everybody. Everyone's unpopular now. So, I mean, I'm going to vote for Joe Biden. You're going to vote for Donald Trump, and we're off to the races. But I don't think it matters. I mean, I listen to these guys. None of them seem particularly interesting to me because they're not terribly interested in doing anything to depart from the orthodoxy of their candidate. I mean, I don't know if that's on the screen, but Cornel West is who I'm doing my show about this Saturday. I mean, that's a problem. A Green Party candidate cost Hillary Clinton the election in 2016.
Oh my God.
And Cornel West could conceivably do that again. But as far as
Jill Stein,
I'm a Green Party candidate.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
Jill Stein.
Yeah,
But
Jill
he's a
Stein's
much better
Green
known figure than Jill Stein, and he's a better attention getter, and I think he's a better speaker. So he's
it's the potential to be the Perot effect, a viable candidate that
not
gets just
Cornel
enough
West.
for that. Because elections come down to the 9 points in the middle. So you have a third
I would agree
party.
with that, but Perot's an open question. I think historically you can look. It's a weird dynamic. Traditionally speaking, a third party would harm the incumbent, right? That's the common sense view of it. But in that case, it was a very weird.
Why no one
dynamic that was
mentions
going
Ron
on,
Paul?
because Clinton was doing a change election, and Perot was the changiest freaking thing out. Am I allowed to curse in the show?
Go for it,
Because the
Anthony.
changiest freaking thing out there was Ross Perot. So I know there's been a lot of talk that Perot cost Bush the election. I know Bush thought that, but I'm not sure the math holds up on that. But in terms of Cornel West, it's clear every single one of a lefty green, candidate, African American, who talks about, the Democratic Party not doing enough for African Americans. That's 2 points in Wisconsin right there, right? Well, 2 points probably high, but 1.5 points in Wisconsin, where the margin last time was only 1.5 points. So,
Aaron, question for you. In regards to campaigning, mayor, which is a city, then you have the state versus you got nation like
President,
DeSantis, Congress,
Big
governor.
difference.
Yeah.
How different is it campaigning, city, Congress, district versus governor versus president?
Well, mayor
more
of New
money.
York City is a whole different creature, right? I mean, you're campaigning for mayor of the city of New York. You're attracting national attention because first, it's an off-year election. It's not held at the same time, so it's a really barren time on the political calendar. But in essence, it's the same thing. It is thrust and parry around issues, what people care about, identifying what it is you're trying to say in a very short, concise thing. The stuff I found, and again, you've taken a run at me for not watching the show enough, but the stuff you do around marketing is interesting to me. One of the reasons I wanted to come here is kind of see the marketing side of this. So there is a marketing and a notion of like figuring out what works and what doesn't. But in a broad sense, presidential candidates are very different things than anything else in politics because you're running this weird bifurcated campaign of a national campaign and this weird state by state thing where you can be campaigning in Iowa talking about completely different issues than you're talking about when you go to New Hampshire or South Carolina. That doesn't happen. I mean, to some degree, you go upstate in New York or Tallahassee compared to Miami. You get a little bit of that when you run as a governor, but you really get it as that. That's why I think states like New York, Florida, California, a governor who says, look, I know from dealing with different communities, I know it's different geographies, different economic imperatives, that makes me ready to be president, which is why Americans choose governors so often to be president.
You said earlier, we were talking about RFK. You're like, well, it's just a money grab. He's trying to get money. He's trying to sell books. He's trying to do this. Did you read his Fauci book or no?
Oh God, no.
You haven't read it?
Did I read the Fauci book? No, I didn't.
Why? That's
why,
your.
why not?
I don't. It's much easier just to read other people who debunk crazy conspiracy theories. I don't have to read the conspiracy theory.
Huh?
So what was conspiracy theory about?
I'm not gonna. If your listeners want to go and do their own research on it, I'm not gonna sit here and be Fauci.
You brought it up
versus Kennedy on a conspiracy. I mean, I just don't have any interest in that.
In doing
then
what?
why'd you bring it up?
The conspiracy,
In being one side of a conspiracy theorist, like debunking a conspiracy theorist, you can get other people on for that. And you get all kinds of people who are real experts in this stuff to do that. I'm not interested.
So
Oh, that means you just don't know shit. Got it.
So the thesis is it's a very conservative radio station. You guys have a pretty conservative audience here, I surmise.
Probably center right, I would assume. A very, very capitalist, entrepreneurial, free thinkers.
Pretty conservative. I love my boss, the owner of my station, says we're center right. I'm like, boss, I'm the only thing that's not hard right on the entire station. So we're not center right. We're pretty right. But I believe in the idea. I represent a fairly conservative district by the standards of New York. Archie Bunker's house was in my district.
That's in what city, by the way?
New York City.
In New York City, that was your district. What area?
Oh, the outer boroughs of Queens and Brooklyn, working class areas, not the fancy high rises, the places where, like, as I mentioned, Archie Bunker from I gotta remember.
Time. All in the Family.
All in the Family.
Yeah.
Very conservative. Places I lost 80-20, for example. You know, when I left Congress, when I told Nancy Pelosi, you want me out, I want to warn you, this is going to be a Republican seat when I leave. It was. So, and I prosecuted that job with the argument being that we all have our partisanship, even more so now than when I was in office. But I think there's a healthy group of people in the Venn diagram of Democrat and Republican who don't want one hand clapping, who want to hear what the other side has to say, who want to engage in some kind of a conversation about it. It doesn't seem that way in American media today. I will admit that most of the money is on one side or the other, one silo or the other. I am trying out the theory that if I try to be a Democrat, a well-known, famous, fired up, green, whatever.
Establishment type of a Democrat, like.
Well, you say establishment. I did run against the establishment every time I ran.
Right.
You are pretty establishment, buddy. Nobody gets when you're as establishment as it gets.
Well, I don't know. When I was in Congress, I was causing all kinds of headaches for my party because I was advocating for left on healthcare. I was advocating right on Israel and law enforcement. You can put establishment. All I know is from establishment is most establishments in my district in New York City and in Washington didn't like me and were happy when I was out. So that's all I can say about the establishment. But let me just finish my thought about what
real quick with the establishment. I mean, you're very closely linked with the Clintons, whether you're Bush, Clinton. That's as establishment as it gets. Is that not fair?
I guess I was married to her deputy chief staff at the State Department. But remember something, Bill Clinton was not an establishment guy when he started, right? He ran against the establishment when a lot of people thought it wasn't a smart time to run in 92, et cetera. But all of that being said,
but then he became the establishment.
Well, when you become the president, you become the establishment. Donald Trump is like the outside guy. He's the president. The guy he's now the very definition.
Far from establishment. He was not establishment.
But once you're
Kennedy wasn't establishment.
I know. But I'm just responding to the idea that people run when they're not the establishment. But once you become the institution of the presidency, you become the establishment.
Define establishment. What is establishment to you?
Well, maybe we should both do it since it was in your question. But I guess establishment is the organizations and institutions of politics and whether they like you or don't like you. Okay? Whether you pose a threat to them or not a threat to them. I can only assume, given their eagerness to get rid of me, and I can attest to this, that I don't consider myself a side, but I also don't consider it such a pejorative. If by establishment you mean someone who, like you used it, that got elected president, that got elected Congress a whole bunch of times when there's a middle-class kid who, like, with the name Anthony Weiner. Okay, yes, I was a member of the United States House of Representatives, a job that is in the Constitution of the United States. That is, by definition, the establishment.
What has happened last few years that's a little weird that you say I don't want to talk about it. Rob, can you pull up the article that just came out? Paragraph 19, New York Times, on the amount of COVID deaths that they reported. And this word that the CIA came up with called conspiracy theory that a lot of people like to throw around. Hey, this is a conspiracy and that this. Well, well, the history of it goes back, but CIA was one of the ones that really took it to a whole different level. If you read this article here, go to the part where it's okay. The far left New York Times.
Who are you reading from?
This is
the New York Times.
No, it's the Breitbart.
Well, we can go to the New York Times article if you want to. So the far left New York Times quietly admits this week that deaths from coronavirus were overcounted by 30%. Another right-wing conspiracy theory is proven true. And by the way, can you go to the paragraph where it's actually written the way it is? It's on a different article, I think, that Vaitema launched. Go to exaggeration.
The headline was a positive COVID milestone.
Search the word exaggeration if you can. There you go. The official number. Okay, so COVID totals, to be clear, has not fallen to zero. That is 80%. The official number is probably an exaggeration because it includes some people who had virus when they died, even though it was not underlying. It was not the underlying cause of death.
Like my father.
Other CDC data suggests, sorry for your loss, suggests that almost 1/3 of official recent COVID deaths have fallen into this category. That is a big number. So when we're sitting around every day, we're watching the news and everybody is panicking. People's lives are being stopped. Kids are not going to school.
People are dying. 1 million people are dying.
Yeah, 1 million people are dying. But you're saying to do what? Stop everything? You're saying to force everybody to take the vaccine?
I'm just saying you were taking that as a way to minimize.
You said millions of people are dying, but as we saw, Trump had 400,000 as opposed to whatever.
And I am taking the other position that I don't think you minimize 1 million people.
I don't think anybody minimized it. I think
that language sounds pretty minimizing.
Do you see the part about 1/3? Is that a conspiracy theory?
No, I think this is a pretty reliable. So there's the 1/3 is a hyperlink. We can probably go look and see what that is. That sounds like it makes a lot of sense to me.
Oh, now it does.
Because
this is why America's.
What difference? What point are you making here, my brother?
Oh, you were about to say what difference does it make? A legendary quote used by somebody else.
Well, no, what difference does it make to your point? You're saying this is not this is a conspiracy theory?
No, you're saying when I said, have you read the book? I said, why would you read the book? That's all conspiracy theory.
No, he didn't say this. He had hit conspiracy theories.
If you haven't read it, how would you know what he said about it?
Because I explained this earlier to your question. I read the reviews of the book and the debunking.
Oh, so you read the reviews. Got it. So
yeah.
So kind of like if I'm in office and I have to go through a certain new legislation is coming up, I just wait to see what New York Times writes about instead of me writing.
A lot of people tune into your program to find out about other things in the news and get a perspective on it to draw conclusions because they trust you. Isn't that true?
Right.
So I have sources that I trust. This is not such a novel idea.
But I would read the other side's book.
You would read every book on both sides of every what? Really?
If it's one of the biggest crisis we experience over a 3-year period,
yes. The guys, if I have to anyone within the sound of my voice can read what bullshit that guy.
And he tried to debate him. He's just like, okay, so what if I'm a chomo? I still make money because I'm a white, rich politician.
Spewing, but I'm not going to have you want to already be at COVID. By the way, you're making the DeSantis mistake now.
Any guy say that
What's
again?
The DeSantis mistake?
The DeSantis mistake is it's the Churchill effect of believing that what was a giant issue 2 years ago that animates people is still a giant issue that animates
That's the problem with the establishment.
You think DeSantis is still making that an issue?
No, I think DeSantis is running a campaign based on things that are no longer salient.
Well, that's the reason that he's relevant. That's kind of like the whole reason that he's on the forefront of the campaign.
Well, excuse me, how do you define forefront? He's getting crushed.
Who?
He's in second place right now.
He's trailing by 40 points.
Yeah, you're right, but the reason that DeSantis is known,
first of all, I'm changing the subject, but I'm also explaining. I'm explaining the phenomenon that he experienced with Rudy Giuliani, the Winston Churchill fate, that you can be amazingly good in your mind and for your voters' mind in a certain issue, but once that issue recedes, the salience of that and the importance of that issue recedes as well. That's the mistake that DeSantis is making.
And by the way, with all due respect, this is why people don't like you and trust you.
Yep.
This is why America doesn't trust the establishment. And the one thing I want
I going to be the harbinger of the establishment in this conversation?
No, you're part of it because the American people, okay, the American people who follow the guidelines, not the people that didn't follow the guidelines, the people that took the COVID vaccine, the people that followed the non-essential, the people that didn't go to work, the people that kept their kids from going to school, and they said the experts are telling me this.
Yeah.
You dramatically changed my life, and now you're saying, what difference does it make?
No, I didn't say that. No.
That's
I
the
said what
exact
difference
pattern
that is
of who cares that's behind us. So
First of all,
DeSantis, don't talk about it.
We have some time here, so let's go back for a moment. You were pointing to a reference in there and talking about a conspiracy theory and whether it was reduced less than a third.
No, you called it a conspiracy theory. I did not. You're
Okay,
claiming
fine.
it's a conspiracy theory of a
you
book
were
you've not read
debunking it
yet.
by going to a clip and you pointing
From
to the
New
1/3.
York Times,
and
yes.
I said, what difference does it make to the argument you were making? I didn't understand the argument
because
you were
you said
making.
it's been 2 or 3 years. People don't care anymore. That's what you're trying to say.
I was making you're giving me whiplash. No, I was making an argument of why DeSantis is struggling in the polls in an effort to change the subject, quite frankly. Struggling in the polls.
Slick move.
Thank you. Struggling in the polls is because he is pursuing this line
Not
of rhetoric.
at all. I think that's the furthest reason why he's not doing well in the polls.
Okay, successfully changed the subject. All right, why do you think?
Why he's not succeeding in the polls?
Yeah, I mean, I heard your theory last week.
Let me put it to you this way: when Rob said, Anthony Weiner, for example, on the show here, Saturday we'll have Chris Cuomo here. Okay. On a podcast. He's flying in just to do the podcast and he flies back.
Me too.
We've had tonight will be Dave Smith. Tomorrow's Ice Cube. We've interviewed people from left, right, center, everybody.
What are some examples of left?
Kyle Kulinski, Sam Cedar,
David Pacman, Andrew Yang.
Cenk is coming back. Andrew Yang, David I can give you a bunch of names.
Who's David Pacman?
You should look him up. You should start doing a little research. I don't think you read enough.
I should.
But the part I would say to you is the following. The reason, this is exactly the reason why people have a hard time believing what guys like you are saying. Rob, we
rather than put it into other people's perceptions.
But let me answer the question about DeSantis. Let me answer the question about DeSantis, to be fair. The reason why you may say, well, this is why DeSantis is not doing well. Well, this is why Trump is doing well, because people want to know what the hell happened during COVID. Well, this is why Vivek is doing well. So your argument with that,
it's receded in every poll.
DeSantis isn't campaigning. DeSantis is not going out there. DeSantis is not talking to enough people.
DeSantis is campaigning like a pussy, is what he's doing. He's not. He's. When you want to take out the king, you've got to mean it. He doesn't. He's running for 4 years from now. But it's all fine. But I'm just saying. I was making a point about how sometimes candidates fall in love with the narrative about themselves. Their polling looks amazing. And then the world around them changes. And suddenly an issue that was so important. When Rudy Giuliani left, and he's also on 77 WABC Talk Radio, the most powerful station in the nation. When he left in 2001, he was the least popular mayor in New York City's history. He was worse than de Blasio when he left. Now, September 11th came and changed that overnight. But putting that aside for a moment, part of the reason is he didn't get. No one was saying, oh, my God, murders used to be 2,000 and now they're 500. No one said that because it had receded as an issue. They'd moved on to other things. They wanted someone to be less divisive. They wanted different things.
There's something called accountability in American people.
And the murder rate.
And you don't, because you're a politician. You're not somebody you're
I'm
all
also
strategy.
someone, it's quite the opposite, my friend. I'm trying to give you first of all, you do punditry on this show. I've listened to it. I'm doing some punditry about why DeSantis is not doing well. You and I can disagree. We're both speculating, but I'm open to your speculation. But saying that I'm wrong is probably not the right way to go.
When it comes down to the way he's campaigning, we're on the same page. You're not going to get a debate here about campaigning, but to argue the fact that, for example, I'll give you an idea. What is the one conspiracy people from all sides are most obsessed with and have been obsessed with for now 60 years?
Stolen election.
Okay. All right. It happened on November 22nd, 63. The 60-year anniversary is coming up. Do you think we should know who assassinated John, or do you think it doesn't matter?
I'm curious. It doesn't affect my life very much. And probably a lot of your younger listeners probably don't care that much, but it doesn't affect my life that much. But sure, I want to find out where the UFOs and
how important is it to know about it? How important is it for us to know?
Compared to how important it is for me to put food on the table, how important it is to have a good school system, how important it is to be able to get to work, how important it is to be able to come in the parking lot here and not have floods. Not very.
Okay.
It's a curiosity.
What's the flood thing, Anthony? It's freaking raining out here, dude.
My thing. I'm at the end of the day. I look around. I'm always thinking like a mayoral candidate. So when I see a community service or a landlord is not doing their job, or a function of how government works in different places, I take notice of it.
How much time have you spent in South Florida?
Not a lot.
The whole freaking place is flooded.
Why?
We're like 5 feet above ground. It rains.
Are you troubled by that at all?
And it floods.
Yeah, you've got floods in this country.
Let's stay on this topic. Okay, I want to stay on this topic. The last thing I'm concerned about right now is flooding.
So, we got to talk to the landlord. That's a fascinating dichotomy.
Watch this.
The last thing you considered is flooding, but you now want to pivot to the JFK assassination as more important. I think for a lot of people in this country this summer, they would probably say flooding is a little bit more important than the JFK assassination.
And not only that, we have to worry because the world is coming to climate change in 12 years. That's something that we have to really put as a top priority. It's happened every 12 years. By the way,
it's a bad
the world's coming to an end. You know, it's an interesting
bad time to be taking a run at climate change this particular summer, my man.
Yeah. So going back to it, you don't think it's an important issue for us to know who killed JFK?
I'm pretty sure.
Would you put in your top 20? No way. If you had to sit down.
But wait a minute. In what context, though?
In the context of the way you put it, is it an important issue?
California is just immune to fucking natural disasters. Is that what it is? Maybe it's the Earth correcting itself.
In the context of me voting for establishment people, 100% I would. In the context of me seeing CIA has way too much power, 100%. In the context of me seeing how much power DOJ has, 100%. In the context of seeing how much power the FBI has, 100%.
Let me just make this point. In the comments section,
they would not know what
I bet you people can do 20 easily before they get to this, about their own lives, about their concern about the future of our country.
It's about voting. It's about voting. It's about voting.
Those two things are synonymous.
No, they're
Anthony,
not.
with all due respect, I think you missed his entire point. It's a metaphor for really the establishment and what's going on with the agency
get it, but
level,
aren't you concerned about
alphabet agencies?
Can you do me a favor?
And the mistrust that people have for the CIA, the FBI.
I know, but the JFK assassination doesn't rise to even the top 20 in that
but it's
category.
part of that bigger category.
I said at the beginning, I said it's a thing. It's not a very important thing.
Right. And you sound like somebody.
The own government would kill our own
somebody you look up to or not.
That's not a big
Rob, can you please play this for me if you could? I'm going to text it over to you. This is what it sounds like. Okay. If you want to play it. This is what it sounds like.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Totally get it. Aaron, go ahead and play this. Rob, do you have it? I just texted it to you if you can pull it up.
Yes, give me 1 second.
Yeah, I think
is it a voice I'll recognize?
It's
does it matter?
You're gonna recognize a little. You're definitely gonna recognize. So
okay.
It's the issue with two communities. Okay, if you look at this here, famous line on what she said. Okay, go ahead and play this.
With all due respect, the fact is we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make?
You agree with that?
She kicked ass in the Benghazi hearing. Did you guys watch that?
You remind me of her.
Fucking kidding me?
You remind me of her. They say, so by the way, what do you think about the Clintons? What do you think about the Clintons?
I think she arguably, and let's see if you can come up with a name who exceeds this, the most qualified person ever to run for president of the United States, a former senator, a former secretary of state, a former first lady. I mean, that would have been an amazing president, would have done a better job in virtually every way. And
why do you think she didn't become one?
Oh God. From a 2016 perspective, like going back and rehashing the
I mean, you were in it, so why do you think she didn't?
I wasn't in
one?
it. I wasn't in it.
Well, your wife was in it, so you're married to the woman that was the right-hand person to her. So
well, we were separated at the time. The answer is no, and I was in rehab for the important part of the campaign. So no, I wasn't connected with that campaign at all in any way. In retrospect, probably because the corrupt head of the FBI put the finger on the scale for Donald Trump.
What? So you're blaming Comey?
Well, if you want to have one hot take, there's a lot of different things that went into that. The Electoral College is a shit show, and we're stuck with it, but it is what it is. She got way more votes than the other guy got, but you can argue that Jill Stein got 2% in Wisconsin. And Hillary lost by less than 1%. Jill Stein got about 1.8% in Pennsylvania. So yeah, I mean there are lots of things. I mean, 2016 is a long time ago now, but yeah.
How much of it do you think it was with Russian collusion and Russia being involved and Trump involved with Russia and all that stuff? How much do you think was that the reason?
I believe Donald Trump's intelligence officials. I believe them when they said that the Russians attacked us for the purpose of helping Donald Trump. That's Donald Trump's own people said it. I believe them.
What do you think about what Durham said? The whole
Durham, the prosecutor that didn't prosecute anyone.
Aaron, good old Biden.
What did Durham say? We already had the Mueller report. Yeah. We already had the Inspector General's report in 2019. We got this guy who said he was going to arrest the people to get to the bottom of it. He did nothing. All he basically said was that some type of a process the FBI followed should have been a different process that they followed. Durham was. Are you still talking about Durham? I'm surprised you guys aren't discarding that.
You are exactly the reason why people can't.
My dude, politics. you keep putting it in the third person. If you want to say something to me, say you believe it. Don't say other people don't.
No. Clearly, if I'm saying
everyone believes
a lot of people.
Clearly, if I'm saying it, I'm taking ownership of that statement. But you're exactly the reason why people don't trust. Like, pull up the poll
I disagree with you, and you're not used to having people disagree with you.
Not true.
American trust in the U.S. government.
This is an open conversation. We disagree all the time.
If you want me to agree with you, I can do that. I have watched enough.
I have zero desire for you to agree. I know you're not going to agree with me.
Listen,
there's one thing
let me finish my thought. Let me finish my thought. If you want me to come on here and do the yeah, well, maybe if I believe something, I'm going to say it, and I'm doing it, and I'm not just using this phrase. I'm trying to be respectful to the notion here of we're having a conversation. You say, what is Durham? And I tore the shreds out of Durham. I'm going to keep doing it. If you want me to nerf it for you, I will. I totally could.
So the 3.5 years of MSNBC mainstream media talking about Russia was all true.
Wait, you can't say 3.5 years Russia. I don't like MSNBC either.
Answer it.
Yeah,
it bores me to tears.
Okay, so
but it wasn't MSNBC saying these things. It was Donald Trump's national security.
Schiff coming out saying you have absolute evidence that the Trump administration was colluding with Russia. And we're like,
wait a minute,
maybe he was.
They're meeting in suites in Trump Tower with literal Russian agents, according to wait for it. The Trump administration told us this. Why? This is not in dispute anymore. It is Donald Trump's national security advisor, Donald Trump's CIA, Donald Trump's FBI, Donald Trump's people came out, and then a bipartisan report in the United States Senate said the same thing, and then an Inspector General's report said the exact same thing. What do you mean MSNBC said it? The only people not saying it are the people who aren't paying attention at this point. But it's not the end. Look, it's not the end of the world. We go on. We were attacked by a country. They succeeded. Now we're gonna try to make it better. That's why in 2020, when there was more talk about attacks, that's why we over-calibrated in the other direction with Hunter Biden. We are a flawed country, but we should try to get better each time we do this. And if we get attacked one time, what service do we do by denying it? Why do we do service?
Not bad.
Denying what?
Denying that the Russians attacked us when we know they did.
Okay, so why are you denying what happened during COVID when you're saying, it's just, listen, it's behind us. It's just all right. So your one argument.
All right, you want to do COVID yourself? I want to do COVID with me. All right, let's try. I mean, I'm not the best person. So many better people can get on to do COVID.
Yeah,
let's go. I believe 1 million people dying is a big deal. I believe Donald Trump saying you should drink bleach is a dumb idea. I believe he lost the election because of it. We have accountability, and now we're doing better.
Right. And again, going back to it, when we talked RFK, this is not about COVID. I don't have any desire to talk about COVID right now. When we talked RFK, I asked you, did you read the book? And you said, why would I read a conspiracy theory book? Then you said, well, it's behind us. This is the same exact mistake DeSantis is making because DeSantis is talking about the stuff that 2-3 years ago. And No, that's exactly what American people want to know right now.
RFK said that he pointed out that one fact and said it was 1/3, and someone called it a conspiracy theory, and it was 1/3. I stipulate to the idea that it was 1/3. So it's 1 million people. We don't, and there you go. I stipulate to that. But I didn't read the book, and I don't need to read the book. And you put a clip on from Breitbart, claimed it was the New York Times. Then we put the New York Times in a much more nuanced explanation. And nuance is where I think we should live. These are complicated things.
What nuance?
They quoted something.
We put you bring the clip back up because, English is my 5th language, but I just want to read this again to make it very clear.
This can't be good radio, but go ahead.
Yeah, this can't be. Well, you're on a radio station that most of your listeners are a week away from dying. So I don't know how many people are listening to your
they're all. And being disrespectful to old people is not what I do. I respect them and honor them.
It's your show.
I respect them and honor them.
Wrap this up.
I am not dismissive of people when they're old.
You know what? When Rob told me, Pat, Anthony Weiner agreed to do this podcast, I said, okay. I said, I got to respect that the fact that he's at least coming down. There's a lot of people right now. We're about to do a town hall. I believe we're doing a town hall here with Vivek in 2 weeks. Yep. We're doing a town hall where pretty much every candidate's been invited to do a town hall. And audience will be able to ask questions. I respect anybody that's willing to go and sit down. For example, Newsom went to Hannity and sat down with Hannity. Okay.
I've been on Hannity a ton.
Yeah, you got DeSantis, which, by the way, was very interesting. Your last interview with him a year ago when he asked you a question, how much has changed with you? And have you changed since all this stuff in your life? And your answer was, I think so. It's the audience decision to judge. That was kind of a weird answer when you said that.
Well, if you want to, first of all, instead of characterizing it,
you want me to play it for you?
If you want to play it, if you want to play it,
go ahead and play it. Let's play it.
I'm not, but if you want to go back,
I don't want to go back.
We're kind of all over the map here, but go ahead. I'll be glad to go. I don't.
But I got one last question here before we wrap up.
On WABC Radio in New York, they are exploring the left-right divide and major issues afflicting New York City and beyond. One of the co-hosts is former New York Congressman Anthony Weiner. He spent 18 months in confinement for sexting with a 15-year-old girl. He was released in 2019. He says he's ready to answer tough questions about his own life, the challenges facing the country. He's joining now our friend Curtis Sliwa with a new show, their co-host, The Left versus the Right. Anthony Weiner, thank you for being with us. Curtis Sliwa, always good to see you, my friend. I guess the first question that I have is, you pled guilty, Anthony, to sending obscene materials to a young girl, a 15-year-old girl. You pled guilty, you served jail time. Have you changed? Are you a different person?
Well, I think so. I don't think anyone can go through that kind of experience. And I think this is probably true of people who have been through other types of adversity. I don't think you go through that type of experience and don't emerge changed.
Well, wait, but Anthony, wait a minute.
So I think it's fairly obvious.
That's an obscure answer. I think so. Either you know in your heart if you changed, or you know in your heart if you didn't change. Can you assure people, because you're going to now try and draw in an audience, and they're going to want to know if you've changed or not. Have you changed?
They can judge for themselves.
I'm sorry?
I said they can judge for themselves. I'm not out to persuade you or anyone else that I've changed. I mean, I'm doing a radio show and people can call in and ask me questions. We did one this past Saturday where people had an opportunity to call in and
pause it.
You
said you want to react to it?
No, you were characterizing it. So rather than you characterize it.
Was that pretty accurate on characterizing it, or was I a little off?
I'll be honest with you.
I just want to make sure I'm pretty accurate.
Would it be fair to say you stand by that statement? Do you think you have changed? Dude, I didn't know those allegations. Those are heinous allegations. Have you changed?
Well, we have a nuanced relationship with the notion of change in addiction. That we believe that you don't stop being an addict, that every day you've got to take your medicine. It's no different than being an epileptic, that once you know you have the disease,
in a sexual predator.
But
a disease of texting and sexting a 15-year-old girl, a disease?
Well, I did all of these things under the influence of an addiction that I still have.
What is that addiction?
I would carry on. I've talked about this a lot on the radio show, but there's a little bit of a hard pivot here. I would carry on with dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of people in something that I never met any of them. And in those dozens and dozens of interactions, some of them would be sexual, some of them would not be sexual, some of them would be me giving advice on how to change a fuse in your car. But that interaction that I was getting into was stimulating something in me that was addictive. That was, I couldn't stop even after I had increasingly worse consequences. I couldn't stop. It accelerated to the point where I hit my bottom. Actually, when I went to prison was not when I hit my bottom. It was before then. I went to rehab and I am in recovery today. But call it what you want. I mean, my brother died an addict. I'm in programs for addiction around this behavior.
What were you addicted to?
Yeah.
It's not really clear what was doing the thing. Is it feedback? Is it the flirting? Is it affirmation? Is it who knows? Process addictions like gambling and whatever, overspent. Like sometimes they unlike people who deal with alcohol and which I'm also, not doing.
Right.
They're very easy. Put the cork in the bottle. We now binary thing. This is what it is that you're addicted to. In today's world, the rooms that I'm in are filled with people that it manifests in a lot of different ways. People with pornography, people around.
Why is your speech so much faster?
Escorts,
better?
people around different elements
All
of
the
the part of our brain that stimulates that kind of stuff.
So you're an attention addict? Are you a drug
No,
addict, a sex addict?
I mean the
a
program.
narcissist? What is it?
Program. Well, narcissist is a diagnosis of a thing. I'm in a program for sex addicts. That has a really wide range of bottom lines. The people in these rooms, and we have a tradition not to talk about it, just like AA has, but doesn't do much anymore. But yeah, I mean, my program of recovery is related to sex addiction.
Are you talking like from a standpoint of sex addiction, or you hear the phrase the minor attracted persons? Is that what you're talking about?
The court said I didn't have any attraction to minors. The court case, we never had a trial.
Yeah.
As
Did
no
you
one
settle?
gets trials, there are no trials anymore in this country. We're down to about 2% of cases go to trial because of the penalties around going to trial. I pled. I accept responsibility. I did my time. I have. I understood I understood what the judge meant when she said that no one's ever been sentenced for this before, but because you're a public figure and we have to make an example, I understand someone has to be the first in these types of circumstances.
So the judge is basically saying, oh, we've never had to do this before, but since you're famous, we have to do something. I don't believe that, because if it's never happened before, they wouldn't have done it to him.
All of that being said, I don't think the system is corrupt. I don't think that I think there are things that should be fixed in it. But this is the greatest country on earth. We have a criminal justice system that is the worst in the world, except when compared to every other one. And I know that when you're a person of my prominence, that there's an expectation that I'm going to be sentenced for things that someone else might not be.
Do you think you should have gone to jail?
No.
You do not.
What?
I should not.
What were the exact charges?
So the exact, as they said, I pled to. There was no, I didn't have a chance to go to trial. I didn't have a chance for them to put proof on, and I'm,
And why'd you plead?
That there was no physical evidence. There was no, I should not have gone to, no one's ever gone to jail for this. I mean, we had a former governor and prosecuted in the same district that literally was using money in transactions to hire sex workers and things like that. And he wasn't prosecuted. He resigned and, whatever. He left in disgrace. The disgrace and dishonor that I met with and being in recovery and trying to get my life back. I don't think people should go to prison for what I did.
How concerned are you that this is your everlasting legacy?
We have a saying, what other people think of me is none of my business. I don't have a particular, I heard a conversation, was an interesting one about legacy that you did with Jeffrey Toobin. So to let you know that I was listening.
By the way, to be fair, we actually liked the guy, Jeffrey Toobin, and we laughed and had a great time with the guy, even though we disagreed with many different things.
Yeah, no, it sounded like he's a good guy. He sounded like his book was interesting. But you asked this question about legacy, and I am not terrible. I think part of what led me into an addictive spiral was being in airports and having people come up to me and wanting to take pictures of me. I was famous for shouting at Hannity and beating the crap out of Fox News guys and jousting and fighting and whatever it is. The most famous thing I ever did in Washington was having a loud exchange over the 9/11 first responder bill.
How about that?
And that type of
because
mania.
When people think of Anthony Weiner, They don't think of anything he just said. Anthony Weiner. Oh, the Chomo. Okay. Well, the one apparently thinks that he shouldn't have gone to jail for,
Type of like,
minors
well,
and
what do
shit
people
like
think
that.
about me at this?
Nobody's ever done
I
it
have
before.
people love me, but do they love me enough? Do they love me the right way? And so this notion of do I get up every morning and look at my son sleeping in bed, think about the problems my city faces, my country faces, think about the ways I can be service to other addicts who are sick and suffering. And do I say, well, I wonder what's going to happen?
How does that work? A registered sex offender, they're allowed to have kids still? Don't they have to give them up to the state or the other parent? I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't know the rules about that.
Father died a month ago. Do I wonder what people are going to say at my funeral? I don't, to be honest with you, that stuff, that way of thinking about things, all I can do is today. If someone says to me, do you want to get on a plane and go down and do this interesting podcast with these guys who might not agree with you, but who knows? Maybe someone will be watching who'll say, huh, that's an interesting thing. Let me tune into Anthony's show. Huh, that's an interesting take. Let me give more oxygen to people who do that. All I can do is today take the next right step. And if I get too concerned about future tripping about, well, what will this people think about me? So when Sean Hannity says to me, have you changed or are you better or have you improved? And I say, I don't know. And then I put some meat on the bones and I say, look, that's for other people to decide if they want. I'm not terribly concerned about that. If someone wants to ask me a specific question like you've asked me today, I'll be glad to answer it. But no, I'm not particularly concerned.
Have you watched Sounds of Freedom, the movie?
I've read I don't want to walk into the same trap. I've read about it. What is it? I've read a lot of things about it. What is it about exactly? It's a very popular movie now.
You haven't watched Sounds of Freedom?
I haven't watched any movies, to be honest, but no, I don't.
Do you think, the stats they quote in Sounds of Freedom, which is as a father of 4, you got one that's 11, about to be 12. I got an 11, 9, 7, and a 2-year-old. So, the mindset of a father where once you have a kid, you're no longer in one place. You're always in 2 places. If you got 1, 3 places, 4 places, 5 places. So you're continuously everywhere. They quote the stat of 20 million new child pornography pictures have been uploaded on the internet the last 12 months. That's a 5,000% increase in the last 5 years. The fact that it's a $150 billion industry per year, pedophilia, human trafficking.
Anthony Weiner.
The fact that you can sell cocaine once, but you can sell a 5-year-old child 5 to 10 times a day for 10 years, depending on what the age of the kid is. And that this is a crisis that is happening with minors around the world, with what's going on around the border right now, where kids are coming unaccompanied. This is a real issue. Do you see that as a top 5 crisis in America today?
It's a huge problem. I didn't know that's what the movie was about. It's a huge problem, but I'll go beyond that. I mean, there is I don't want to get out over my skis, and it's probably $1 trillion industry around pornography of all types. That is completely, I mean, I see guys in these rooms, we have this notion of,
I don't know, man. I think
the
child pornography takes a higher precedence than that.
And these guys who are addicted to pornography, and the idea that every time they're watching pornography, it's probably a human trafficked or someone who's been exploited or someone who's forced into these things. This is a huge problem writ large. I haven't seen the program, but it sounds, as a father, it sounds horrible.
But Anthony, you're not equivocating porn with child sex trafficking.
Well, what I'm saying is that I'm putting them in the same category. I'm putting them in the same category.
Consensual sex.
Well, hold on a second.
Versus child sex trafficking.
We have no idea. We have no idea about what consent people have given. Whether they, if you don't believe that porn is exploitive of people, then I mean, you and I have a different understanding. I'm not saying that all of it is. I'm not saying.
I highly disagree.
I'm not saying that all of it is, but I'm saying it's the same. It's the same general problem that we're looking at stuff that's going on all the time, relatively out in front of us, that we don't really are thinking about the way that it's corrosive to society.
Surely children having sex is not the same thing as adult having sex.
That's true. That's surely true.
Okay, so that's sort of contradictory to what you just said.
No,
Yeah.
I'm expanding the conversation about something I don't know very much about to something I had more experience with.
I think the question was, do you think this is something that
But you have more experience about
we should be worried about? Do you think it's a top 5 issues?
Way more than JFK's assassination. Way more. Way more.
I don't disagree. I
that's
absolutely
definitely
agree.
true.
I think to me it's even more than top 5, but I agree in that area. How much you think we're doing to protect these kids? Because how often do we hear about people getting, caught? How often do you hear about, it happened at a massive scale? There's a lot of people that are getting away with this.
I'm not really an expert on it, and I didn't see the movie, but yeah, it sounds terrible. I mean, and the movie's getting an enormous amount of attention. So perhaps that's the fulcrum that is needed to get more done.
It is.
Are you going to watch it?
Okay. In regards to education, a lot of the kids from LA and a lot of the different districts from LA have reached out about, what's going on with their schools and the state of California, what books they're teaching. Rob, if you can go to valuetainment.com and type in the word queer and go to the book. If you can, I'd love to get his thoughts on this. If you go to valuetainment.com and then type the word queer in search, parents are concerned about what's happening. I'll put it over here.
No, I'm good.
Concerned about what's going on with what their kids are being taught. You and I don't know how old you are. I think we're closer.
I'm 50. I'll be 59 in September.
You'll be 59? 59? Did he say 59?
You're about to be 60?
No, dude, easy. I'm going to be 59 in September. You're going to 60 already.
Oh, I don't know if you know, 59 is right next to 60.
Very nice.
Okay,
very nice.
No.
I think he was shocked. I think he's actually paying you a compliment.
No. There's no way. I thought we're the same age. I'm 44. I thought you're like in your late 40s. Okay. So
the picture of Dorian Gray, that story.
He's 59 years old.
Yeah, Dorian Gray from 50 Shades of Grey.
The picture of Dorian Gray. It's this story about how this guy continues to look really fit and attractive his entire life, but up in his attic, there's a portrait of him that is decaying little by little by little. And it's about this whole, it's an Oscar Wilde story. It's about this whole idea that we may look good outside, but we're decaying.
Wow.
Are you saying that you're decaying on the inside?
Can you go to the
I've been through a lot.
So here's a click on that if you could go. Anthony, you say I'm left, but I'm not far left, right? There's certain things you don't agree with everything on the left. So here's a question for you. They send me these pictures that 10-year-old kids can now learn in school.
Oh no, this is
here's a sex book. If you go a little lower, teaching boys how to give boys a blowjob. If you go a little lower, right there. How to give another boy a blowjob. Keep going lower.
Goes YouTube.
Do you think it's appropriate for 10-year-old kids to have to read material like this in schools?
I don't know anything about this book.
Just logic. I mean, let's just say they were doing this.
If I'm going to assume all of these facts and evidence,
let's say they are.
If I'm no, I would not be crazy about my son reading any of that because he's that age.
Well, listen, I appreciate you for being straight up with that because that's exactly what's going on in the state of California. So, and Newsom came out with a video and he said, I can't even send you the clip on the video. It's like, we are not going to let them ban these books, and they're doing what happened in these different things.
So let's take a step back here. Let's take a step back. We're a big country, a lot of teachers, a lot of school districts. We in this country, in our form of government, we ostentatiously keep education decisions close to home. That they're.
Are you sure about
the
that?
education budget is like 4% in the federal government. The budget is tiny because the things that we're going to do, these determinations we're going to make about schools, we understand as a society we want them made closer to home because they should reflect the values of their community. Not every community and every book and every school board and every library is going to do it exactly the way you and I would. But the $64,000 question or the 30,000 foot, whatever metaphor you want to use is, we can use these things to try to poke at this idea that the world's on fire and everything is destroyed and everything's wrong. Or we can say, listen, that classroom has a group of parents that can go to the principal and go to a school board. The last thing I want is someone like Ron DeSantis saying that I am going to decide. Or in Tallahassee, that's where the capital is of the state?
Yes.
Or in Tallahassee, we are going to decide what books parents or kids or teachers are going to teach. I don't believe politicians are that smart. I don't believe their values are so much better than the parents in my district are. And
they're the overall proving authority. It goes through schools, teachers, librarians, professors. It's not like they just go, oh yeah, I'm gonna ban this book right here, because anybody could do that fucking book. Hell, they could ban the Declaration or the Constitution because I don't think this talks about treason.
I think that the hardest thing for a politician to do is say, you know what? I'm not the best person to make this decision. The best person to make this decision, these people, and you know what? People are going to make mistakes. They're going to get things wrong. Do I want my son reading that book? No, but I don't know what we get at when we're trying to we're trying to make this suggestion that we're going to train that you're talking about a state that is 3,000 miles away and you're trying to draw some conclusion about some horrible.
You said that.
It's not in one school. It's in a state.
He didn't bring
Anthony,
up
you're very
you
well
did.
spoken, and you're very sharp on a lot of things.
Thank you.
And no, you are.
I appreciate it.
You've spent a good part of your adult life in debate. You're very, very, very good at it. But what you just said, I don't even think you believe. Parents don't really have the ability. You look all over the United States, you have parents trying to go to school boards so they could do this local, as you brought up. They don't have the ability to do that. They have the ability to appear, but they're not being heard. The argument is being truncated.
What's the evidence, my friend?
The evidence?
Grassroots army.
How many school board meetings you want to pick where parents come up and say, I don't want my kids to read this book. I don't want my kids to see this.
You're going to have parents showing up and other parents are going to say different things. This is an imperfect thing. You get your say in this country. You don't get your way. And we certainly shouldn't have a say on California books for helping about 3,000 miles away. And why are we animated around these things? Because we're animated around the idea that media relies on conflict. For those of you listening, I'm banging my fists together. Conflict. We love it. So we show something like this and get people excited. Oh my God, the world is ending.
That some parents are animated about the concept of age-appropriate education.
Everyone is.
Really?
No parent is standing up saying,
I love this.
I'm standing up.
Well, it's okay for my kid to read pornographic stuff in school, right? Well, yeah, okay. Can my kid get a tattoo? Oh, fuck no, they're not old enough. Well, my kid wants to drink some of my bourbon with me. Is he okay? Oh, he's way too young to make that decision. Can he chop his penis off? Well, hell yeah, he can. Oh, wait.
Up in favor of inappropriate. Look, teaching.
Of course they are.
Teaching.
Of course they
I
are.
know, because it's necessary for this argument for you to take that position.
No. You want me to play clips? Okay, let's go to the greatest hits.
My mom was a school teacher.
You brought this to yourself.
Congratulations.
My mom was a school teacher for 30-something years.
Yeah.
I can tell you how, and I have been to so many school board meetings. This is what I used to do. I would go out, I'd come back from Washington or as a city council, and I'd go to community meetings. People fight about stuff. These are not easy issues. They're not. Now that if I were a parent and my school was doing that, I'd go to a school board meeting. I'd be pissed off at that, and I think I'd probably win that case and say we shouldn't be teaching this. But
you are a parent.
But
not if you're a parent.
No, but I'm not a parent. You show me some excerpt to discuss.
Whether it's California, New York,
this is not a California.
Anthony,
that's when you and I disagree.
This is not just a California. If your 11-year-old son was exposed to this, or a grown adult, a grown man was texting your 11-year-old son, what would you do about it?
That's not the question we're suggesting. You're
taking
an excerpt from a California book that
what would you do if you found someone texting your son?
Wait a minute. Well, let's stick with the books for a second. I just told you what I would do if that book appeared in my son's teaching. I told you what I would do. I would go to the school board. I'd go to the administrator. I'd rally to other parents to go do it because that's the way we make decisions at that level about these things. We don't do it on podcasts from thousands of miles away who are profiting from not this one in particular, who are profiting from conflict. Fox News all day is around finding these foibles, accelerating into giant things in our country, talking about woke this and woke that. And every poll shows we're more divided than we've ever been. All I'm saying is that we make these decisions in an imperfect way, and I'm not saying we always get it right.
Hang on. You were poking at Pat for changing the subject. You just went to media using conflict to make ad revenue, and that's your business model. Okay, you're correct about that, but let's go back here. Sure. This is not a 3,000-mile away issue. There are school boards all across all 50 states. Pick one where parents are bringing this up, but they're being told no, and they're being pushed back. This book is going to be there.
You've stated that before, and I said, bring me some evidence of that. I've seen more in the other direction.
Some evidence. I've seen no. And then you say, "Well, I didn't see that."
I've seen thousands of books that have been banned and removed from shelves and libraries all around by legislatures getting over their.
What kind of books are those?
Answer this question. Who do you think is more equipped to make these decisions for a local community? the local community school boards and the local community administrators or legislators a half a state away who don't even represent that district? Who would you say?
I think we've already said that. The people in the school board,
So
but it's not happening.
But what if
that's the issue? It's not happening.
But that's
Anthony.
your judgment. The point about 3,000 miles away is you're making a judgment on their ability to do their jobs. I get it. Maybe if I was doing
it's not my judgment. The books are
if I
there.
went to a school district in Mississippi, I might make different decisions. But I'm a Jew from Brooklyn, so I'm not going to do that.
If the books are in the classroom, that means the parents have lost, and they're in their classrooms. And
yes, there might be a book in a classroom in Mississippi that I don't like. I'm a guy from Brooklyn, New York, and what? So maybe let's let the legislature do it. Let's let the governor do it. Maybe we should elect a president who wants to do it. I mean, it's just remember something. You want this perfect formulation of every decision being exactly where Fox News wants it at all times. No, shit's going to get screwed up sometimes.
We're going to do Fox News, and I didn't say president. I didn't say legislature.
I know.
You keep going back upstream with that argument.
I'm the other way around. I'm narrowing the scope of conflict to say this is this local area.
No,
I'm
you're
using this as an
broadening the scope
alternative.
of argument.
No, I am to make the opposite argument, which I believe is being made here. You're saying we're 3,000 miles away and we don't like a decision being made in a school district in California.
No, you're narrowing. You're narrowing the point. Very good, counselor. You're narrowing the point down to 3,000 miles away, as if that's the only place it's happening. It's not. The books are in classrooms all across the United States.
My friend, you're saying that over and over again, and I keep trying to make. Since we don't have a specific example except the one that's been on the screen, I will make the general argument that it's none of your business.
I'm sorry?
It's none of your business. Your business is your school district. Your business is now. The world is coming to an end because California's all fucked up.
It's the other way around. It's none of your business what I do with my kids. You don't get to teach my kids about certain issues like this on LGBTQ at certain age. And in third grade, you want to talk about sex and all this stuff. That's none of your business.
Patrick, why are you so powerless?
That's none of your business.
Patrick, why are you so powerless? What goes on in your kids' school?
No, I'm not powerless.
You're
I make decisions.
Exactly.
I make decisions. I never feel powerless at all.
Remember when the FBI was weaponized against parents at school boards? Do you remember that? Oh, no, because you apparently, you were the ones that they, oh, okay, you're good to go because you're a white liberal Jewish guy from New York.
No.
So why are you saying I'm not doing anything to your kids?
The concept of running for boards, you're 100% right. We did a video talking about, what was the video title, Brandon? We talked about parents, you got to go run for board, and rather than complaining about it, do something about it. Absolutely, we're for it. But to say these types of issues, you're 59 years old, 15 years older than me, in school, when you were 12 years old, did anybody teach you how to give a blowjob?
I don't believe anyone taught me how to give a blowjob, Patrick.
Do you think you needed to learn how to do that at 10 or 12 years old?
I have trouble accessing that part of my memory.
I highly doubt it. You're a very sharp guy. So for me,
I was not a player at 12. Let me guarantee you.
Sucking other boys is dangling is not a player. I'm asking you a question about what it was to, if that was something you needed to learn at the age of 10 or 11 or 12. That part is
Patrick.
How ludicrous is my question right now?
I have an 11-year-old. Ask me about my 11-year-old. That I can answer easily.
But the point is the fact that two things. One, I agree with them. One, I disagree with them. The area I agree with them is the following. Kudos to you for straight up saying, no, I don't support something like that if that was the case. Kudos to you for saying that. Now, number two, kudos to you for saying parents do something about it. They are. And many of these districts, they are. They're fighting. And they're doing
in
their
both
part.
directions.
Yeah.
They're fighting in both. They're fighting to stop book bans and they're fighting. This is the way it's been in America since the birth of our country.
But we weren't this insane 20 years ago. We weren't this
let's pause on that point.
30 years ago.
Let's pause on
I
this
can
point.
give you Gallup, Pew Research, all of this stuff.
Let's pause on this.
Yeah, go ahead.
I do believe that, yes, cultural things change and that conversations about homosexuality, about transgender, about gay marriage have changed an enormous amount. We are a progressive country in all kinds of different ways. But we also should acknowledge that we do have an echo chamber in this country that loves stuff like this. We have at least one candidate for president who one of his stock and trade things is this amorphous word about taking wokeism out. We do have a marketplace that is accelerating these conflicts beyond California, beyond our neighborhood town halls, to be echo chamber types of things that we are here thousands of miles away arguing about them. There's a market for this. I don't believe it's a healthy market, Patrick. I don't. And every week I try to say to my audience, okay, listen, let's try to return to the place that we can have conversations around things like how we structure government, how we make decisions, how we try to find our values expressed in government in ways that don't necessarily and I can tell you the values in a school board in Mississippi and the values of the school board in Chelsea, New York might be different. We don't have to treat that as a threat to our kids. Period.
Yeah, I want to pull up a couple articles here for you. But you know what? Before doing that, I just want to get to my last point here. So you were very eloquent on the way you defended Hillary Clinton, on who she was when it comes down to politics. Are you still close to that family?
I'm not.
Okay. So who do you think between the two was a better politician? You think Bill's the better politician? Do you think Hillary's the better politician?
I don't think Hillary was a particularly good politician.
Okay, so she's a better strategist, you would say. She's more strategic, power.
She is a classic blooming where she's potted kind of public official. Everything that she has been given to do. I watched her, as a rookie elected official come into New York and become an amazing senator. I watched her at Secretary of State be like, she blooms where she's potted. She knows government well. She's smart, as a very, very smart person. But I can tell you that it's hard. I think it was hard for her to get her sea legs, being the first woman candidate of a major party. I think it was hard for her to get her sea legs in the framing of Bill Clinton's wife. I think it was a lot of things, or a lot of challenge she faced that you and I would not face on the campaign.
Do you think she's a good person?
I do.
Okay, so when we announced the fact that we're interviewing you, we kind of crowdsource with the audience. What questions do you want to ask? And our research team will go and say, hey, is there any credibility to this or not? And then we don't waste our time. So hey. We're having Anthony Weiner on. Great. So you have to ask him about Frazzle Drip. Go look it up.
Shit.
This video is a deep fake. Not any credibility to it on what happened with Hillary Clinton, Huma, and all this stuff. Nope. We're not going to ask him about that because I don't yet see a real source. A lot of it was stuff that, conspiracy, all this stuff that's being said. We're not going there. Yeah, you need to ask him about Pizzagate, because that's exactly what's going on with kids. Yeah, no, we're not going there. That's not something we're going to be asking him about. Yeah, you need to ask him about this, and you need to ask him about this. I said, okay. All of these things that they said we have to ask you about. To be fair, it's Bill Clinton officiated your wedding with Huma, your wife, if I'm not mistaken. Correct. So you've been very close, and your wife, is it still wife or is it ex-wife? I think it's separated since 2017, right?
We're separated. We co-parent Jordan, but we're separated.
Okay. And, she was a right-hand person to Hillary Clinton in 2016 while the scandal was taking place.
For years before that, she was with Hillary she's 20 years.
And the whole thing with the life insurance, the email, 650,000, one folder with the word life insurance and the files that are in there. So the next thing that people said, you got to ask him is the following. So, Rob, if you can pull up this story, I'm not going to buy into this one. Well, 9 out of 12 cops, NYPD, who saw the email and saw what was in that laptop, committed suicide. And it was, 7 of them since June. And it was the most ever that this took place. And these are the men that committed suicide. So then we went and looked it up and we're like, no, they did commit suicide, but it wasn't linked directly to seeing the laptop or the intel there. No problem. So again, no credibility there. So there's no reason to ask you the question about the 9 out of 12 cops. That side.
You shouldn't even be listing them and giving it oxygen.
No, my job is to listen because I like to read.
List them. You shouldn't be listing these things.
Well,
these things
it is what it is.
Destructive. People have actually
these are conspiracy theories. These are conspiracy theories that
all
some
have books about them, though.
Right. But the one thing that we did look up that wasn't a conspiracy theory was the following. And this is the one that's kind of weird. And first thing I asked myself is, how the hell is our guy here, Anthony Weiner, still alive? What do you mean by that? Well, when you go through the list of people that have been close to Hillary Clinton and the Clintons and the Deadpool, this is not a conspiracy. You got the names of James McDougal, Clinton's convicted Whitewater partner, died of an apparent heart attack. Mary Mahoney, former White House intern, was murdered July 1997 at a Starbucks coffee shop in Georgetown.
Ron Brown, he died in a plane crash.
Vince Foster was the next one. By the way, the James Dougal was a key witness in a key Ken Starr investigation.
Ron Brown was in a plane crash. Why is he on the list?
Ron Brown is another one, but there was a close person to this. Victor Razor. You got Paul Tooley, Ed Woolley.
Wait a minute. You're reading a list of people that Bill and Hillary Clinton knew. They're 80. They're 70 something years old.
I'm asking you this question. I'm asking you this question and an answer at the end. So you got Jerry Parks, Jane Bunch, James Wilson,
You're
Kathy
better.
Ferguson, Bill
You're
Shelton,
better than
Candy
this.
Bow,
You're better than this,
Florence
pal.
Martin, Susan Coleman, Paula Grober, Danny Casolero, Paula Wilker, John
don't know any of these
Parnell
names.
Walker, Barbara Weiss. We should verify this
You
yourself
just said
because
you
you're
did.
running a radio show. You should look it up.
I
Charles
don't know any of
Meisner,
these
Dr.
names,
Stanley
my man.
Hurd, Barry Beal, Barry Seal,
Here,
Johnny
can you
Lawhorn,
read me the
Stanley
URL you're reading?
Higgins,
Can you read me the URL
Herschel.
you're
We'll
reading?
send you the most credible source
let
you
your
can look it
listeners
up.
know
Herschel
what you're
Friday. We
reading
will.
a
We'll put
list
the
of.
link below. We'll put the
Just
link
tell
below.
me so I know what I'm
Herschel
responding
Friday, Kevin Ivy, Dan Henry, Keith Coney.
What?
And these were part of the Ivy Henry case. Keith McCaskill.
What's the Ivy Henry case?
You can look it up. Ivy Henry case. So Gregory Collins, Jeff Rhodes, James Milland, Richard Winter, and then you got the close bodyguards, Major
Chemsick,
William
at the bottom.
Barkley, Captain Scott Reynolds, Brian Hanley, Tim Sable,
What
General
do you,
William
you don't
Robertson,
even know what you're reading a
William
list of. How is this? How is
Densberger,
this
Robert
helpful?
Kelly, Colonel Gary Rhodes, Steve Wills, Robert Williams, Conway
Is this gonna
LeBlue,
be-
Todd
is this gonna
McKeon.
be
I'm
included
done.
in the show?
It's 46 names. And
Of what?
When
Can
I-
you read
when
me
I-
the list? Can
when
you
I-
read me the URL so I know what you read a list of?
when
before
I
answer any
finish,
questions
when I
about it?
finish this, still in the storm.com. You can look it up.
Still
So-
in the storm.com.
You can
This
look
is
it
your
up.
big moment, guys.
Yeah, so you can go. And by the way,
ask about
Never run for
chemtrails at the end of it.
He hasn't even asked the question.
by the
He's
way-
just reading the article.
He's reading a list of names.
So-
He hasn't even asked
asking
the
me-
question. It's a list.
the fact that you're getting nervous is an answer.
It's not
okay?
nervous. I just
We're not
this stuff
playing
makes
Let me
me
wrap
sick
it.
when you repeat
Exactly, it
these
makes us sick as
ridiculous-
well. It also
It
makes us
obviously
sick.
doesn't.
Wait,
It
Of course,
obviously
because
doesn't.
the establishment
You
makes us
start
sick.
the question by reading a list of
Your
well-founded
reaction is an answer.
conspiracy. I know these things make me sick, and people
Your
have gotten killed
reaction is
over
an
it.
answer.
Someone went into a pizza parlor in
Yes.
Washington because they believe this shit, and
Your-
you're making an echo
Your
chamber. out of it.
reaction is an answer.
Yeah.
So let me go to it here now.
No.
So-
Your
Your reaction
not
is
going
an
to read a
answer.
list. Yeah, my reaction is my reaction.
Yeah,
Can you
exactly.
tell me what that list, in your view,
You
what would-
haven't allowed me to finish. If you allow
There
me
you
to
go,
finish the
because you're reading
question,
46
then you
random
can
names
do
off the
whatever
internet
you
of
want.
some fucking insane website.
I love your answer.
And
because
these people who you don't even know who they are, you're reading them on a list of something, making some kind of as if it's somehow suspicious. You don't even know who these human beings are, who have families, who are like out there. And now
I'll spend the
you're
next
reading.
2 hours with you, one by one, explaining
Fine.
each individuals are if you want to do
fine.
that.
How about you pick one? Pick one and tell me who he was and what his story was.
Tom,
No, not you. You were asking me the question. Pick one name
I
and
will
then tell me.
pull up Vince Foster if you want.
No, Vince Foster, that suicide has been investigated 50 times. Pull
Yeah.
out one of the obscure names you pulled.
Yeah,
Why did you pull Ron Brown? Here, let me read Ron Brown. Ron Brown, a Commerce Secretary who a plane crashed while he was on a humanitarian mission, crashed on the side of a mountain. So what do you want to know about Ron Brown? What do you want to know about Ron Brown?
Can you let me ask the question?
No, listen, this
Wait,
is a
can you-
conversation.
No,
We're
no.
having a conversation.
I'm sorry. I'm the host. You invite me to your podcast. You get to ask the question. I'm the host.
This is what
I'm going to ask you the question. You haven't let me answer the question.
I didn't see the
Your
rule book.
reaction is already an
I
answer.
know. I am infuriated by people
I
who drag
understand
other
why
people's
you would
names
be.
who are powerless. You're not powerless.
Hillary Clinton is
I'm not-
powerless?
No, these
You're dead.
people.
Hillary Clinton
These
is powerless.
people.
That's the problem.
These people.
Hillary's the problem.
You read a
The
list
pow-
of people
the
because you have the
establishment
power to
people.
do it.
I don't-
People who do that are
I have
bullies,
the
and
power
I don't
to do-
appreciate bullies.
I have the power to do what?
You do. To read a
do
list
what?
of some
I have the power
stranger's
to
name.
use the DOJ and other things to control and
That's
hide
not
things?
DOJ.
Yeah.
DOJ
Let me-
didn't make this
let me
list.
finish up
Some
my question.
jackass made a list in his
You have
basement.
the right to
You're reading their
answer.
names as if they're incriminating
You
in
have
some
the
way.
right to
That's
answer.
bullying, and
You
I don't
have-
appreciate. And
you have
I
the-
stand up against bullies.
Please do so.
He hasn't even asked the question
He's
yet,
reading
Anthony.
a list and he's refused. And now he said, "Let's move on."
No.
Because I set your answer
Nobody
already.
has said
He
move on.
hasn't
You're
even asked the
panicking.
question. I don't even know what the
name.
question
Yeah.
is.
Pick a name.
I'm going to ask you a question.
He did
Reading
pick
And
a
you
name.
get
A
to
list
answer
of people who
or not
probably
answer.
And there are some of those people that had military titles in front of them, and you're
Exactly.
dragging their
That's
name.
even the
You're
point.
dragging their name.
Not
through the
dragging
mud.
their name.
You should be ashamed
Because
of
their
yourself.
families would want to know.
Because you've got a podcast.
Some of their
you can
families
read
would want to know.
some conspiracy theory podcast. Some conspiracy theory that 9
I
people read.
got you.
You find some guy that comes in, and then
Congratulations,
you
buddy.
go from Ron Brown to some obscure officer
Yes.
that used to protect Bill Clinton, who passed away. May he
Obscure.
may he rest in peace for his
May
service.
all of them rest in
And
peace.
you are dragging them into some
May
wacky
all of them
conspiracy
rest
theory.
in peace. May all of them rest in peace. So here's the question for you, because millions of people are not convinced Hillary Clinton is
Again
a good
with the
person,
other people, millions
including
of people.
myself.
He said
if you
millions.
want to do that, I'm not
put the questions
I'm not
in your
worried
own.
about.
Don't
ask
try
the
to make
question.
it about some bozo
So-
who put up a website. Put
so
in your own words.
Here's a question for you, Guy. It's a very simple question for you. So, how is it when you think about other candidates? Okay, everybody has a stereotype. You have a reputation, whether you like it or not. What's your reputation? Your
Sure.
reputation is you like to text underage girls and you like to talk to girls, and you sending pictures of your dangling, that's your reputation. Whatever you do, you can't do anything about it. Adam has a reputation. Adam is a playboy in Miami.
You better get back to that list of strangers you read a list of.
I'm getting back to it. Tom's got a reputation. His reputation is a man who
and right now your reputation is listing strangers who served in the military and dragging their names.
I have a reputation to ask tough questions and piss some people like you off. That's my reputation.
Including dead people who I'm going to stand up for.
Oh, trust me, we are standing up for them more than you are standing up for them.
Let's see. You better get back to that list because we're going to clear some people's names today.
My question for you is, how is it that in the last 50 years we don't have a single candidate? Everybody has their own. Hey, John F. K. was a playboy with Marilyn Monroe. Trump, Karen McDougal, Stormy Daniels. You know, George Bush linked to 9/11 and weapons of mass destruction. Bill Clinton linked to Arkansas women, all this others. Everybody has a reputation. How is it that the reputation that follows them as people close to them die? Why is that a story that many people believe in? Why is that?
Are the Clintons in their 70s yet? You don't think I can make a list of other people who are 70-something years old and say this person died, that person died, this person died? Hold on.
How come they haven't done that with Bush? He's in the same age.
I have no freaking idea why they haven't.
How come they haven't done that with Trump?
So are you saying, so you agree with what I'm saying?
How come they haven't done that with Reagan?
So
how come they haven't done that with Kerry?
What point are you making about these men and women who you listed?
So many people close to them die? How is it so many people close to them?
Everybody dies.
How is
it you suggesting? Okay.
I'm asking the question.
You're asking a bizarre question.
Exactly.
Did people die? Did people die? No. What pisses me off, and I'm going to say this again because you apparently are not listening to me. You read a list of people off an obscure website that of conspiracy theory, taking a Venn diagram of everyone that ever worked in the orbit of someone who served in public life for 50 years. And you listed them, including people in the military, including strangers you could not pull out of a. And you are implying that there's something nefarious. Let me finish my thought. Let me finish my thought.
Please do so, because I got another.
Let me finish my thought
here for you.
You're implying both with the question and with the website. The website says it explicitly. You're implying it. Let me finish.
Go ahead.
You're implying that something. You are implying
until he's done. Go for it.
You are implying that something nefarious is afoot both with the question and with the list. Hillary Clinton, she's a big girl. I'm a big boy. You're a big boy. The people that you just listed,
they're all.
Listen to me. No, these are obscure people that you could not pull out.
Great politician, buddy.
Wait a hold on.
Fantastic.
You know what? You are the classic bully. You list someone's name. Are you going to go back and clarify? Are you going to go clarify?
You know what?
Are you going to clarify this list?
You I don't want you know that.
Ad hominem attack on me. Is going to somehow clear that person's name.
There isn't anybody at this table that's a bigger bully than you.
I tell you. Oh yeah. You just listed some stranger with PSC.
Very good, deceptive way of pinning. Good for you guys.
You're reading some. You're reading a conspiracy website.
Good for you.
Some people say. Some people say. Look at that fucking website.
Just sent to you. Pull up the Wikipedia. Is Wikipedia a conspiracy website?
You want to take?
No.
You want to take a run at me? Bring it all day, pal.
Hey,
bring it all day.
Sweetheart.
Take a run.
Clinton body count.
Yeah, apparently you haven't won one of the arguments.
Wait, can I throw a mic I can drop? Conspiracy right at the top.
What's the point with that?
The point is conspiracy theories are by their very definition unsubstantiated.
How come other people don't have this conspiracy theory? How come Reagan doesn't have this conspiracy theory?
Oh, wait a minute.
How come Bush doesn't have this conspiracy theory?
On the PDB podcast,
how come John Kerry doesn't have this conspiracy theory?
Oh, wow. Really?
Why do they, though? Some of the stereotypes are true. Like, you have some reputation. It's true, some of it. Some of the stuff they say about other people is true.
That's not a stereotype. That's a made-up story about strangers.
How come others don't have that made-up story?
People have it all the time. Look at the internet.
Give me another body count with another president or candidate. Give me another person.
Do you really think that someone within the...
Do me a favor and pull up another Barack Obama body count.
Do you really think... Oh, why don't you go to Barack Obama, not born in this country? By the way, where was that podcast? Did you guys do that one?
No. That's never anything discussed.
Oh, why? Oh, come on. Some people say it.
Anthony,
there's a Wikipedia thing on it. Huh.
Okay.
These people are strangers that you just read a list of, and I think out of deference to them,
you're a dark human being, guy. You're pretty dark.
Pal. Settle down.
No. You're pretty dark to take the angle you did.
Listen to me. You're talking toughness now.
Oh, okay.
You should cut that list out of those.
Sure.
We should still have the argument. You and I are big boys. Cut that list out.
I'm not going to be cutting that list because the world
needs. That's right.
Here's what everybody needs.
The world needs that poor person's family that you can't even name.
Exactly. That some people say, What does it matter now? They're
Some
dead.
people say.
What does it matter now?
Some
They're
people
dead. Can
say.
you play that clip again?
Famous podcast
Play
host
that
says
clip
some
again.
people say.
Play that clip again. What does it matter now? What does it matter
These
now?
people.
What does it matter
Change
now?
the subject all you want. Anyone who read that list
one's changing
is
the
still
subject.
waiting for you to come back
Do you
on this and apologize.
Do you
to those
realize
people.
why some people?
Apologize to those people.
Do you realize why some people?
You should apologize to those people.
Apologize
Why do you
to
keep
those
saying
kids.
that? What does he need
Because
to
those
apologize
people,
about?
listing those people on some obscure website and
Apologize to those
something about
parents?
their death was shrouded in some kind of a mystery, dishonors their memory. Now,
this is
if you are Hillary Clinton
Fantastic.
if you are Hillary Clinton or Anthony Weiner, that
Yeah.
may sound fine. If you are some
Make it
person,
bigger,
if
please.
you are some
Abbott's name
person
all
who
day
has
long,
one of these
though.
jackasses on the internet showing up
Yeah.
at their doorstep
Yeah.
saying, "Tell me about the
Make
death
it
of your father.
bigger.
How did Hillary Clinton?" We had someone walk into a pizzeria in Washington with a gun because of assholes like
I've
this.
heard that phrase before by other people. Play it again. Play it again. I've heard this phrase.
Oh, by the way,
couple
what's
times.
the whole Benghazi? Let's get the whole
With all
Benghazi.
due respect,
No, it's the phrase.
The fact is, we had
No,
4
let's watch the
dead
Benghazi.
Americans. Was
It's
it
the
because
phrase.
of a protest, or was it because of
You got a
guys
good
out for a
script.
walk
You
one night and
disagree with
decided to
this?
go kill some
You
Americans?
disagree with her
Listen
point
to
here?
the script.
Difference at
Play
this
that again.
point
Play that
doesn't
three
You
times.
make
disagree with this
Play
point?
that from the 10-second mark. Not
Yeah,
from
yeah,
that
yeah.
mark.
Play it from the 1 second mark so we really get
right
context.
there, right there. Go play it right
Play
there.
it from the 1 10
You
I mean,
kill
I
some
can get the whole
Americans. What difference
thing.
at this point does it make?
That's what you
Yeah,
sound
let's
like.
let's hear it.
What a script.
let's
You're
hear it.
duplicating it very
Let's
well.
hear.
You're
Let's hear.
duplicating
By
that
the way,
script
do you
very
disagree
well.
with her point?
Of course I do.
You do?
Of course
That
I
it
do.
matters whether it was a protest that came
course
from Libya to that family.
Do you know?
To that family. And
That-
by the way,
that
do
family
you know
does
why
matter.
she cleaned the Republicans' clock in that hearing? Because she talked about how
She
many
cleaned the
times.
clock? She
Yeah.
ain't a president, guy. That's cleaning the clock. The American people cleaned her clock.
No, in the Benghazi hearing.
Yeah.
Focus.
Why do you think she's not a president?
Focus.
Why do you
The
think she's not a
Benghazi
president?
hearing. Focus.
The American people
You bring
cleaned
up
her
a
clock.
clip and then you want to change it to 2000.
No,
Let's talk about
Yo,
that clip
what
for a
she did to
second.
the Republicans. So going back to it, here's what you're doing right now, which is fantastic. You
Well, now he's
just
got the
You don't
influenced
believe that, do
a
you?
lot of people to. You just influence a lot
Oh,
of
you
people.
can
to go do their own
find
due
you can
diligence.
find
Go
utter
do it.
dirt. No, you did
Find
that,
out
pal.
for yourself. No,
I saw what you did by listing the conspiracy
Don't
theories
see
you're
that
not
rule.
going to ask about.
I'm
I
not
saw
gonna
what
ask
you
about
did.
those things.
I'm sorry, that was dishonorable.
That's which part's dishonorable.
The list of conspiracy theory you know is bullshit, but still putting
Yeah,
it out
but
there.
This thing, there's a lot of
I think
credibility sources
people
behind
want
this.
bullshit. It's not true. Look at what you
Yeah.
had to cite. Cite any media that you would ever read in your day-to-day life for that. Cite
Yeah.
anything. Go call one of those
You
people.
still
Have
can't
one of,
answer questions.
have
can
one of
you?
your producers. No, you make a point now. I'm responding to it. Have one of your producers call up one of those families and tell them if they want to be listed in one of these
Oh,
conspiracy podcasts.
You're so sweet for saying that.
Yeah, that's
you're so
cute.
sweet for playing this deceptive game. I got to tell you from watching you for
Have
the
you
last.
I mean,
do that?
there's lists.
I got to tell you.
I know
from,
this is not what you're
Yo-
used to.
on
I'm
mainstream
sorry.
media.
I actually, it's funny. I texted with someone. Should I give them what they're used to, or should I, whatever? And they said just whatever.
You know
moves
how I
in
knew
the
who you
moment.
were the moment you walked here. You know how I knew who
You
you were
don't
when
like
you
me because
walked
I
in here?
disagree with you,
Let
man.
me tell you.
We
no,
have
no,
too much of this.
No, no, no. Let me tell you who you are, guy. Here's who you are.
This is good
This is-
media.
this
You're getting
is-
good
this
content.
This is who you are. You walk up here and you said, "What's your name?"
I'm sorry. I
And-
shouldn't
and
have done that.
No. You said, "What's your name?" And then you say, "I call my friends to say, should I give these guys this?" You know the name. You know
Yeah.
the show, but you're
No.
the typical
I was
elitist,
trying to find if
arrogant
you use your
guy
whole
that's
first
like,
name.
Hey, so it's like the
I
player. But like,
apologize.
what's your name?
I
Because
apologize.
you're above everybody
No,
else
no,
as
no.
an elitist.
I
You
apologize.
position yourself as an
I
elitist
didn't
from
know
the
if
first
you
second,
used.
and I was
What would
willing
you
to
call
give
a
you fair
guy
shake.
showing
that
You
you're
walked up
saying?
as an asshole, and
No.
that's what
I
you're getting.
apologize. I
Yeah.
apologize. I didn't know if you used the shortened version of your name. I should have researched that.
No,
and
no, you
listened to how
didn't
other
say
people
that.
do it.
You said, "What's your name?"
I know, but to see if you would give me a hint about what you said.
and then when
People
I
do it with
said-
me when
no,
I do
no,
Tony or
I got
Anthony.
a good memory
I
like you do,
apologize.
guy. You said,
I
"What's your
apologize.
name?"
Anybody does
I
it.
said Patrick. Then you asked, "Do you prefer Pat or Patrick?"
That's a.
If you
I
knew
was
my
trying
name
to
is
be-
Patrick, you would have eliminated one of the questions and you would have asked. So the point is, and by the way,
I was
here's
hoping
the part.
you'd identify yourself.
I identify
You're right.
myself
I
as a
apologize.
male, as a father, as an entrepreneur.
I
But to
apologize.
Go back to your question.
I apologize. Do you
You
accept my
came
amends?
onto his
from-
show.
I apologize.
Sure, I respect
I
the game.
apologize for that.
But the point I'm making to you is if you come in like that and I'm asking you a question, you react
You're
the way
reading
you
too
do.
much into it. You're reading too much. I apologize for that. That was socially wrong
Yeah.
of me to do. I was trying to learn whether you go by Pat or Patrick. I apologize. I could have asked one of your men. I could have asked people. I apologize for that.
Anthony,
and
when you-
I hope you accept my amends for that.
When you did show up, this isn't a name call. You were kind of douchey at the first 5 minutes.
I
You
got,
were
some
just
bad,
like,
I got some bad news as I walked on stage.
yeah, okay.
What?
Well, I
I got some bad
apologize.
news. I'm having
But
trouble.
we have
You
conversations.
want to hear what it is?
and-
Maybe you guys can help me with it.
No, I'm going to make my point, and then you say your bad news. I also had bad news today. I mean,
I'm sorry.
just because you had bad news doesn't need you to be a douchebag when you walk on a stage.
I don't think I was a douchebag.
You're talking about the floods. You're talking about I don't know who you guys are.
I'm making
You're
small
asking
talk.
Patrick. His name is on the freaking show.
Douchebag.
It was pretty douchey, dude.
No,
and we have people that we disagree with more than
we're
you.
We're going back to the Patrick Pat thing. I apologize for that.
We're past that.
I make amends for that. The thing about the pun, it was a serious thing. Why I asked him about his landlord. I was actually.
He's the freaking landlord, dog.
Oh, you're being funny.
Of course I'm being
funny. Didn't know. I'm sorry.
The moment I felt you're that guy, I had to give it back to you. Of course,
I had no idea.
You're like the landlord sucks here. What's going on?
No, I didn't.
Patrick's like, yeah, the landlord's tough to deal with. He's the freaking landlord.
Let's let the audience in on this. There's a big flood outside. It just rained. I'm unfamiliar with that kind of torrential thing.
But that's the point. You don't know anything, and you're just like, this sucks. This
So
sucks.
it's
This sucks.
the rain?
What's your name?
I wasn't saying
it's
that.
like that's not how you start a conversation.
Let's hear him out. Let's hear him out.
Okay.
The rain makes
I
nothing.
have made amends for the Patrick thing, and I should have done it. I should have done it sooner. It was not any sign of disrespect. I just didn't know if it was Pat or Patrick. I get that a lot. People will sometimes say Anthony or Tony, and I said I just said Anthony. I didn't mean it to be that way. As far as the small talk, the awkwardness, I apologize. I'm a radio guy who was brought up in a time of media and social media that didn't have a lot of this as a politician. So I assumed. I thought we were doing a podcast, so I was disoriented by some of this. Combined with the fact that I got some bad news just before I got on the air, I apologize. I make amends, and I don't mind telling you that I am out of practice of this kind of 3-on-1.
Your radio
I'm fine
show
doing
host.
it. It harkens back to a time when I would do this for a living, and I didn't think it was that great to watch. But when it comes to the thing
just to be clear,
the thing that triggered me just then,
the intention, Anthony, just to be clear, we strategized before this what conversations you want to have. Under no circumstances was this a gang up on.
No.
Oftentimes, I agree with you.
The dynamic. I was referring
times.
to the dynamic. But what triggered me about that, and I'm going to try to say it calmly because I feel like I was yelling, which was my intention. What triggered me about that is that I don't think sometimes people fully appreciate that these crazy out there theories that give people who need to find a narrative to explain the unexplained in their lives, to give them some comfort, have real harm it causes in the world. When I have to get a security detail to walk with my son to school, and my wife has to be concerned about being pushed on a subway track, they have real costs. And so when real people, substantial people with real platforms like the people in this room, stand up and elevate it, even to elevate it to say we're not going to talk about it, elevate it, and then read from one of these websites a list of names. I don't know who those people are. I do know who the police officers and other conspiracy theories. I do know the harm it does to their families who are dealing with a suicide, to get called, to have crazy people coming off the streets because they want to prove something. Ask about me. Ask about my laptop. Ask about Hunter Biden. Ask about my experience with the criminal justice. Ask about being in prison. Ask about Hillary Clinton. We're big boys and girls. You want to put Ron Brown on a case that the Clintons murdered someone who had a tragic plane crash, and there's that he was such a renowned person. There's a building named after him across from the United Nations. That's fine. These
so why can't we say his name?
Who get caught up in these bizarre webs deserve better, and they deserve someone
to
name
a building after
enough. And it shouldn't be. This is really, you guys are a big deal. You have 5 million whatever followers.
We're saying enough with the establishment.
Okay, but you could have done that story without reading that list of names.
Of course, I had to read the name because
in that case, let's go name by name so we can clear their names.
Of course, I could listen. And by the way, the reason why
by the way, let me just make one final point. There's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, that's true. I could have done the story without reading that list of random people's names.
I couldn't have done it without it. And I'm a guy that's very comfortable
saying when I'm wrong. Then go back to them. Then if you think it made a point, then let's go back to the list of names. So one by one, you can tell me what you think that person did.
I'm a person, just so you know, who doesn't believe this stuff. Just so you know, I don't believe this, but a lot of people do.
That does not mean it's something you should elevate. There are a lot of people
who
don't believe the moon landing happened. And if you're going to elevate it,
so why can't you have that conversation?
You can have a conversation.
A lot of people believe in flat Earth.
Listen,
a lot of people believe that Barack Obama wasn't born in this country.
Here's the distinction
I believe the Earth is round. I believe that Obama was born in this country.
Here's the distinction I made.
But that doesn't mean you can't have that conversation.
I'm not saying I once said you can have a conversation.
Yes, you didn't want to even read the list.
No, the list is not the conversation.
Of course it is.
There's quite a different thing to say that we believe that there is a place that they're skinning babies in the basement, and not say, here's the name of the pizzeria and the guy that owns it and his address. Do you see that distinction?
Huh?
Do you? Of course you do, because it's being responsible. You can have a conversation about a crazy conspiracy theory without listing some poor stranger's name on a list of 45 names.
By the way,
name is different than
tell that
someone's
to Google.
address.
Go tell that to Google to not put it on
No,
Wikipedia.
no, no. You
Go
have
tell that
you
on-
have a
go tell-
responsibility higher than Google. You don't take everything you read on Google and put it on your
stop.
air.
Okay, let me ask you a question. So MSNBC, CNN, the way you're like Fox News this, Fox News that. How many stories has CNN and MSNBC said that ended up not being true the last 5-6 years? How many of them?
I don't know.
God knows a ton of them, right?
I know,
what are we
but
going to do? We're going to go out there and do this?
That's
no,
a fair
part
question,
of it is
Anthony.
for people to go out there and do their
stories.
own
I'm sure stories are
journalism.
untrue, but let's not change. Let's not change the victim here. The victim here is not the world. The victim here is that individual
family. Why
family.
we're doing it. This is why.
Are you going to go back to that list and say these people didn't do anything wrong? They didn't die under suspicious circumstances.
You know what time I watched your documentary last night?
It has nothing to do with the
Edit out the list. That's all I ask. Edit out the list, and then we have no arguments.
What time I watched your documentary last night? We wrapped up here. What time did we wrap up here? 11:30, 12 o'clock. I go to the house. I watch your documentary.
Was it
from
good?
12
Did you
to 1.
enjoy it? I mean, people
It
say
felt
good
like
things about
5 minutes. And no joke, an hour and 35 minutes went in 5 minutes. Everybody has to watch a documentary. And I'm telling you right now, to really understand who he is, because the way the exchange, him and his wife, the dynamics right after this, they're running around. It's a very hour and 35 feels like 5 minutes. Okay. That's why I said he's a great campaigner. I can give credit to that. He's a hustler. He's a worker. He's going out there rattling, challenging, fighting. He's a fighter, right? Forget about all the other stuff. There's good things that we can learn from it. My entire question was the following question. How the hell is Anthony Weiner still alive? Because you know the whole, what is that word? A dead man switch? Is that what it's called? A dead man switch? How, this guy has so much information on them that they wouldn't want to do to think.
What are you buying into?
I think, Anthony, I think if there's 10 people in America that have the most dirt on the Clintons, I think you're on that list.
I'm not. What do you want dirt? They're the most examined people. Even people are making up stuff. There's so much. They're the most examined people on earth. What do you
call them honorable? You'd call them honorable. You call them honest. Yeah,
I do.
Okay, great. So guess what? Those who agree with you.
I know, but here's the. But let me. This whole idea. People say, okay, you're too smart for people say. You have amazing opinions. You articulate them very well. You don't need to go back to this.
But that's
I understand. But Patrick, let me just get to my point. You don't need people on crazy websites say. You don't say, why does Wikipedia say? You don't say, why is this say? You can state your own opinion. If you believe something, I can have a conversation with you about it. But there's all kinds of things that are wrong, that are not on the level, that are dishonorable, that are dangerous, and that are harmful to regular people. Not you, the four of us. We're going to be fine. Hillary Clinton's going to be fine. Bill Clinton's going to be fine. Our friends that work for Bill, they're going to be fine. But these people who are anonymous people that get caught up in this, or even worse, crazy people that show up on doorsteps of people because they believe stuff that gets elevated. We have to, just because it's out there doesn't mean we have to elevate it. That's all I'm saying. So what dirt do you imagine that I have? I mean, ask me anything.
Anthony,
I'm here. Ask me anything.
Anthony, I think you...
Ask me anything, buddy.
Anthony, I think you know so much.
What do we...
Oh, buddy, I think you know so much. It's not even funny.
What do you think? They're the most examined people on earth.
Protected. I think you are so protected.
Most
by watching
protected. I was literally sent to prison for sexting.
Yeah,
how protected am I?
think,
and I don't think you would consider me protected when I was in the can either, pal. What do you mean protected?
No,
my life was destroyed.
Brother,
where was the deep state when I fucking needed them?
Dude, let me tell you, you're truly a flag carrier to them, and it's very hard to find people like you.
I told you I'm not close with them anymore. I'm ostracized from them because they loved Huma. I married into that relationship.
I respect the quality of loyalty, and you're super loyal to the Clintons.
I just want to demystify for people who think there's some giant cabal around everything that, you know what? Sometimes shit just happens. Sometimes people just, they just try to find narratives around everything. I have a laptop at home. Go Google Anthony Weiner. Go Google or look on Twitter, Anthony Weiner's laptop, and look how many wackadoodle 4-follower crazies in the middle of nowhere who believe shit about that laptop.
So you know what?
The Trump administration had that laptop. The Trump administration had that. They're protecting Hillary Clinton. They released the contents of that laptop.
So do you know, out of those 46 people who I mentioned earlier, I trust most of them probably, of course, voted for, what do you call it, Clintons. And I trust most of their family members.
Who? The people about Anthony Weiner's laptop?
No, relax.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let me finish. Just pay attention. We got 9 more minutes. We're done. And you can text anybody you want to text.
I'm just dealing with a thing.
You got to get off texting sometimes. So for me, when I think about those 46 names, okay, and I ask myself, they're probably supporters of Clintons, and they're probably supporters of what they stood for, and probably even their families. But this whole thing started off with a couple different things. I asked you a question about RFK. It took a half a second to realize he doesn't have your vote. You don't even like the guy. I got the feeling.
Right, and I gave a pretty punchy
totally
response.
fine. And you were straight up about it, which I respect. You didn't hold back. But to me, what started to happen is the following. When you go back years ago and say an emperor or the establishment had somebody that went up against the establishment emperor or the leader, like let's just say some powerful people, they had to kill him off. They had to kill all their sons off, because eventually someone's going to seek vengeance. And that vengeance may take a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades, 5 decades. I think RFK is the complete opposite of a person that says, what difference does that make? And he wants to find out if the establishment is a real thing and how much power they got.
I hear you.
That's all it is.
I hear you. And I know that some people say things. I get that. This notion of establishment is the hobgoblin of little minds. We are a country of millions of people that all come from different places that are very divided. And the people that go into government come from all different places. Sometimes they're politically appointed. Usually they're not. And this notion of an establishment, if there's so many instances, if there was an establishment, that things would have gone very differently. We want to blame someone. We want an explanation. Life does not give you, Patrick, narratives that are all so tight. Sometimes people just disagree on stuff. Sometimes people just are wrong about stuff.
Yeah, totally fine.
So like this whole idea that everything has to be some kind of a conspiracy or an establishment. There's no establishment out there. It's just a bunch of people.
Stop it.
It's just give me a name of someone who's in the establishment today.
I'm in America.
I would go Mitch McConnell.
You're the establishment.
You
guys are you're a $5 million
on YouTube. Well, that's establishment.
You're a comedian, is what you are.
Are you guys bigger or smaller than MSNBC?
The swamp is the establishment.
Are you bigger or smaller than MSNBC?
You get more eyeballs.
MSNBC is establishment.
That makes us an establishment? No, you know what it tells you?
MSNBC is literally called the mainstream media.
Is a talking point for whatever the establishment wants them to say.
Who's the biggest cable company in America?
Fox, because there's only one of them.
Yeah.
There's only one of them. 99% of everybody else is the opposite side. No, absolutely not.
Of course they are. They're a giant multinational corporation with the most watched TV
Let me restate
network.
that. Let me restate that.
Of course it's
Let me
establishment.
restate that.
Rupert Murdoch's not establishment.
Let me restate that. Yes, I don't disagree.
Okay.
On the part with,
so Rupert Murdoch did everything he could to stop Hillary Clinton. So then you have two members of the establishment. So who's the establishment in that case?
Oh, no.
It's two sides of the same coin.
No, guys. So I'm
there you go.
For the longest time,
Trump
Anthony.
and Hillary.
No, not Trump.
He was working for Trump.
It would have been Jeb Bush and Hillary who would have been establishment. That's the establishment.
Correct.
Okay, the Kennedys weren't the establishment. They're the anti-establishment.
I know, but you're picking names and saying this establishment.
You're good at
fair to say that the Bushes, the Clintons, the Bidens are establishment.
Is Fox News what?
The establishment. Is Rupert Murdoch the establishment?
Yeah. I think if he supports the establishment,
Patrick, he is. Obviously,
let me finish
it's
my
a rhetorical question. Obviously, Rupert Murdoch is the establishment.
If he supports the establishment, he is a talking head for the establishment.
I know what the establishment means. He runs a multinational corporation.
You think Murdoch likes Trump?
I don't care. Likes, doesn't like, votes, doesn't like.
Murdoch likes Trump.
You're saying the establishment is so powerful, and I'm pointing out the single biggest media organ in the country is an establishment thing. So, okay. So, yes, if that's your definition of establishment, establishment. Is YouTube an establishment? The establishment.
Yeah, YouTube at the top is because they
I don't know. YouTube has this, and it has the crazy kid, and it has my 30 people watching me on a stream.
Yeah.
So
I think it's going to go up after this one.
Really? Congrats.
Yeah. You're going to get,
you're
going to get, because we're going to put the link to your show.
I mean,
And
all the
if
channels
people
are,
heard this, they're gonna go watch your show, Rob.
I guarantee you get more
You're
subscribers.
gonna see
Anthony.
your next. When is
No
your
doubt.
next
That's
show?
the only way I
When
convince
is your
my
next
boss
show?
to let me come do it.
When is your next
Pull it
show?
up.
I'm on the
Pull
air
up
on
his
Saturday.
channel.
You're
I'm on the
on
air
the air on
Saturday
Saturday?
live, but it's obviously as a
I
Robert,
podcast.
pull up
guarantee you
his
it's gonna be your
YouTube.
biggest show. I guarantee you to be your
All
biggest
right,
show.
you're on.
All right, put it.
But
If
this
it
is
doesn't, I owe you dinner.
No, we don't have. I wanted to talk to you off camera about this, like the different ways these
Oh.
things work. We don't really have our guys. Our listeners are not giant. I mean, we put it out in the form
I
of
get
a
it, but
podcast.
our guys will find you.
What's the name of your
Well,
podcast
just-
on YouTube?
Just do the no. I'm not on. Just do.
It's WABC.
You're not on YouTube?
No, he's
Not
not.
really.
His,
Not really.
What?
Not
No,
really.
but I'll explain.
Dude, you're on AM
I'll
radio. You're
explain to
dealing
you.
with dinosaurs,
Yeah,
Anthony.
no,
You got to
no,
pivot,
no,
baby.
No, the whole point is, what do we want people to watch me on? If you're selling ad space on a radio station, you don't want to draw people to YouTube. Yeah, you guys are in 2029. I'm still dealing with 1985.
by the way,
That's the
if
problem.
I give you feedback, if I
Yeah,
give
I
you
know, but I'm
feedback,
not. Oh, I don't own the place. I'm
Anthony,
like,
we-
I would love to have 5 million on.
Anthony,
I would love it.
we may not agree on a lot. Okay, we may not agree on a lot, and your choice of lifestyle is different than the way I live. But
All right,
if I looked at you,
I consider that a shot. I
No,
mean,
it's-
don't.
I'm just.
I don't think any of us should be judged. Any of us should be judged that way. I haven't looked at your phone. I'm not like whatever it is. I have come clean. I have come clean about a private thing you know about me that is embarrassing.
You're not going to let me finish my point.
All right, but that's the third time you've done that little kind of thing.
But by the way,
I don't appreciate.
I can tell you 40 times
not
what
very
you did
welcoming.
when in the middle of me asking you a question, you interrupted me for the entire time I was trying to finish my
You
question.
asked some
So-
long questions. You got to admit.
Well, you can say that after I'm done asking a question. But here's what I was going to say to you: watching you take all the other stuff away, you don't belong on radio. You do not.
Yep.
You do not belong on radio. You belong with a camera. You don't belong on radio. So I don't know what you're doing.
I do a different kind of show. You got to listen to my show.
Yeah.
It's not this tone. It's not like this. It's very conversational. Like I take callers. They yell at me a little
It's
bit
not
sometimes.
friendly like this
but
one, like
usually-
easygoing
No,
type
listen,
of thing. This is
I have
like
to tell you
chill.
He was actually paying you a
You
compliment.
guys are going to
Anthony.
walk away. You guys are going to walk away and say, "We knew that was a jackass." I'm going to walk away and say, "Listen, that was kind of. It was interesting. Like I haven't done that in a while."
We're not going to say it. We're going to say this was an interesting conversation.
But here's what I say. I am fascinated by. I mean, I was asking questions not to like, oh my God, I'm so much smarter.
Anthony.
I want to understand all of this.
Take a
Like,
guess how many people are watching live right now. Take a guess. Just live, not total views, because this will get millions of views.
800. I mean, is it over 1,000?
Take a guess. Give me a number.
Like we're watching 9 o'clock on a
Yes.
no, you don't give them that number. Right
No.
now, 15,000 people are watching
Yes,
live.
live.
Is that a
But
lot or a
that's,
little? For
but
your
that's
show?
not a number.
That is pretty
That's
standard.
pretty
In the middle.
average for us.
Who
but-
who would be like a stream that like Tyson must have gotten a ton, right?
Well, but
Anthony, you're doing
here's-
great.
Am I doing okay?
Here's the part for you to know. Just in the last 2 hours of being live, this is concurrent. We're at 15,000. The last 2 hours, it's 47,000 people.
Wow, that's
By the end of the
that's
day,
a
it's
lot.
going to be 300,000 people.
that's
that'll watch
my
this because
entire
it's-
that's my entire show.
Yeah. So, anyways,
Welcome
Anthony,
to the non-mainstream
from-
media,
from-
Anthony.
for-
Welcome to non-establishment TV, baby.
For what it's worth, the one part I have to tell you, okay, you got more brass than a lot of these other guys that are running for office who will not come and have a conversation with podcasts like this on a long form, and you did it. We don't have to agree with everything. I can absolutely respect the fact that you're willing to come out here and have this conversation. And hopefully, if we ever do this again next time, we don't need to go through this type of a conversation. We can talk more issues, and the next one could be a lot more friendlier.
Please
than this
invite me
one.
back, and maybe I'll get you. Do you ever do a radio show? I'll go put you on.
If we invited
I
you
much rather
back, would
do
you
dinner
come?
than a radio show.
I would
'cause
tell.
the
Listen,
same
this
amount of
was
listeners.
not. This was this. You know, when my son was away at camp, I
He's never
made
going
this
back.
pact. I'm going to say yes to things that otherwise I had not been. I don't know who I was dealing with, so I've been saying no, and I finally said, yeah, and I don't have a regret doing it. I am probably going to look at this and say, Jesus, you're out of practice. You're getting too hot. You're getting it get under your skin a little bit too much, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe let the thing breathe a little more. I would probably have notes like that. But I would say, and I would have this conversation with Nancy Pelosi all the time when I would go on Fox News. She would say, why do you go on there? You're just giving oxygen to the enemy. And I'm saying they're not the enemy. They're the opposition. And who knows who among their troops might someday be fighting for us. And if I assume that I'm going to get 1% of that
would be
crowd,
the
that's
enemy.
thousands
I
and thousands
actually
of people.
respect that. You have no idea how much I respect that. And unfortunately, the part about like the criticism we get. Okay, let me tell you what criticism I got yesterday when we posted that you're going to be on. If you could just see my phone on who texted me last night on how annoyed they were with us to have you on, you would be blown away. Who texted saying, I can't believe that guy's going to be on? Vice versa. If we have somebody from the other side saying, I can't believe he's having him on. But the part that we have, everybody feels comfortable coming here having the conversations with us. And I can't wait to talk to Como this Saturday. And also, so for everybody that's watching, a couple of things, we're going to put the link to his radio show below, to also the Twitter account. Rob, put both of them as well, so people can go follow and watch what he's got going on. Tonight, we have another live podcast here. Holy moly, this is a crazy day. What time is the podcast tonight, by the way?
7 p.m.
7 to 9 p.m. tonight with 200 people in attendance, and then we'll go to the cigar lounge afterwards. Dave Smith will be here. We have a video we're going to be releasing tonight that a 4-star general talks about the Nord Stream pipeline, on what happened with it, that how do I define this properly? An insider sent this video to us, and we may drop that video tonight on who he thinks was behind Nord Stream. And let me tell you, I think a lot of people are going to lose their minds. So we'll be on again tonight. And aside from that, some of you guys, I keep asking, Pat, I want to go to the next one. Vivek's Town Hall is going to be August 4th here. If you want to get a ticket there, text the word 3103, text the word podcast to 310-340-1132. Again, text the word podcast to 310-340-1132. Cannot wait to see you guys here. We got a few more tickets on the general, and I think some premium seats available for the town hall. Take care, everybody. Anthony, once again, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, sir.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye, bye-bye.
Well, for those of you that stayed the entire 2 hours or didn't, I find this interesting. Let me know what y'all thought. But yeah, I was gonna play this maybe 2-3 weeks ago, but I didn't. I don't know why. Probably because it was 2 hours long and I didn't feel like talking about it. But now that I watched it, this is exactly what I thought it was. It was a dumpster fire. First 20 minutes, you could just tell. And this dude seems to think he shouldn't have gone to jail for sending his PP to a 15-year-old. And he's wondering why he's still allowed to. He hasn't gotten canceled yet, knowing he's convicted. And he's on the registry. And he's still got his kid. I mean, I guess different rules for different people. But I'm not telling you how to think, because that's different. No, I think different. Just telling y'all to think. Information's there. I liked it. You liked it. Obviously you liked it. But did you hit the like button? That is the real question. That is not the